expect and gives you the words to say. The instructions in Mark 13:11 tell you not to prepare in advance what you should say. Doing that puts your words instead of God's words in your mouth. Then Luke 12:12 adds that the Holy Spirit will give you the words to say when you need them. This transforms every faith-sharing experience from high drama to an adventure that changes your life forever. Unless until you experience the intimacy of having God ignite a conversation, giving you the word to say, and watching a life being transformed in front of you, you have no idea what being a Christian is all about. It ignites your life. If you want to have your life ignited, go to igniteamerica.com.
Right from the start of creation, God made it clear that His design for the world was a world of fullness and variety.
Here is Jonathan Griffiths with today's Moment of Truth.
When God made the world, He didn't fill it with the minimum of biological life, the bare minimum, a skeleton crew, as it were. He didn't put just enough plants and animals in the world to make it functional. No, He filled the earth with bounty and richness and wonder. And the bounty of creation, it's designed to meet our needs and the needs of the animals too. Verse 29. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." We look at the creation and we see something of the character of the Maker, the glory of the Creator. As we walk through this world and see its beauty and variety and color, as we eat the wonderful variety of foods that God has created, as we look at the flowers in bloom and the sea teeming with fish, as we experience the world in its splendor, we come to know something of the Creator, and we recognize the sheer generosity of His hand.
This has been today's Moment of Truth with Jonathan Griffiths. To learn more, visit encounterthetruth.org.
Hi, family. It's Mornings with Brian.
Every weekday, we hope you listen and join in as we discuss different topics in the church, our communities, and the world, all from a biblical perspective.
And now you can watch us and our in-studio guests at the same time.
We live stream the program daily through YouTube and Facebook.
So, subscribe to Mornings with Brian on YouTube or like us on Facebook.
Then watch us live Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Christ. And home of Mornings with Brian. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The House is approving a resolution condemning Vice President Kamala Harris for what Republican lawmakers say is her mishandling of the southern border. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The resolution condemning Harris as the Biden administration's border czar passed with support from 6 Democrats. In 2021, President Biden selected Harris to lead the administration's efforts to address the cause of migration. Officials with Akron Metro RTA are investigating an incident in which one of their drivers reportedly refused service to a mother and her 4-year-old autistic daughter. A Metro spokesperson has acknowledged the incident and apologized. And a cement truck was to blame for I-77 North being closed in Summit County yesterday. The Ohio Department of Transportation says a cement truck overturned in a construction zone near Richfield. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
Looking for answers to life's questions from a trusted voice? Want to take the next step in your faith journey but don't know where to begin? You're not alone. Join the community over at the new Bold Steps app for engaging content that addresses everyday life questions with candid, topical teaching from the Bible. Perfect for iOS and Android users, the Bold Steps app is available at your favorite app store. Download it for free today.
In sports, the Guardians were blanked by the Tigers 3-0. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Patchy fog this morning, giving way to sunny skies and high temperatures around 80 degrees. At last check, clear and 58 in Cleveland, a little chilly. Akron and Canton, clear skies, 59 degrees. And our cold spot is Lorain, Elyria, where they have fog and 55.
It's time for your moron moment.
Over 10,000 athletes will sail down the Seine River today in what is poised to be the most ambitious Olympic opening ceremony ever attempted. To commemorate the official start of the Olympics, which were last held in Paris exactly a century ago, organizers have spent years orchestrating a dynamic and distinctly French affair. The live NBC broadcast kicks off with a pre-show at noon Eastern Time, and the ceremony itself begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. face.
6:07, Ron Eastwood, it feels just a little more lovely in here than usual.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Woohoo!
Oh, it's Jaime Buxton from City Mission. No wonder.
The loveliness is just in the air.
And you are so tan.
I'm sorry. Don't make fun of me.
It's not
I'm
make
a
fun.
baseball mom.
I know, no. It's
I'm
not a
not
bad thing.
You're outside all the time.
Just like sitting by the pool all day long, although I wish that I was. But I think you can hear from the raspiness in my voice. This is a baseball mom tan.
Yeah, that's great. So you've had a lot of tournaments this summer, a lot of games, and
so many games.
Little traveling this year for the
A
baseball.
lot of traveling, yeah. Just got back from Cedar Point for the final tournament. The final letdown is actually what it was, but yes.
I understand that. When I was a kid, I was on a soccer team that did okay this entire existence.
Yeah.
My group of guys never quite made it. we occasionally get like third or fourth place, but
yeah. These guys have the opportunity, but it just was what it was.
Maybe they weren't listening to the mothers on the sideline with the advice they had.
Obviously, I had quite a few things to say.
I don't know if you're like my Sarah. My Sarah is just the sweetest lady, and then you get her on the sidelines of a soccer game, and I almost have to kind of like put a hat on and like pull it down over my face a little bit. She's pretty intense.
Sean will sometimes like just tap me and be like, "Did you really mean to say that out loud?" And usually, no, I didn't. I don't say anything real loud, but yeah.
Yeah, my son will know exactly how his mother feels about his performance during the entirety of the game.
Yeah. Mine is less about performance and just like character. So I did at one point, they were losing really badly and my son was catching and I was like, "Get out there and encourage your team." And he turned around at me and like waved me off with his hand. And I was like, "And don't you dismiss me in front of this whole crowd."
That's a great response. How did he respond to that?
Not good.
Moms can do what they want.
That's true.
I feel like that's part of the deal. When I was a coach, I coached the worst girls varsity soccer team in the conference that I taught in. And these girls were so sweet. They won the sportsmanship award, but they'd still sing the school song on the way back after losing like just terribly. And I remember I was coaching a junior varsity game, and it was like, I think it was at that point 10-0. Terrible.
For soccer?
Yes, it's rude.
Oh, that's bad.
It's rude in soccer to do that.
Yeah.
President called the game.
And so I walked over to the other coach, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Brian. I'm the coach of the other team. How many do you want?" What? How many goals do you want? So we can just iron this out now, and then you can stop this and actually be a good sport about the game. How many do you want? And he just kind of walked away. And then they changed their strategy and stopped punishing my girls for existing.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get intense sometimes. I can be intense.
Yeah. It's not, I'm never going to be that like, totally lose my cool. But like that, yeah, I get cranky. And when the other team is chirping and saying not nice things, I can get a little petty.
It's hard not to when it's your kid.
It is so hard, right? It is. That's my baby out there. Don't you chirp away.
Now, it'll be interesting to see how our friend Lauren does, because Eddie loves baseball.
Yes.
You played softball.
Yes.
There's a high likelihood of baseball happening for Trey and or Ellis.
Not looking good for Trey.
Stop it.
What do you mean?
Stop
Why
it.
not?
What do you mean?
He's not very coordinated. Really doesn't like any type of activity.
I can relate to that. I have 5 kids, and it took to the 4th before we had someone with some athletic prowess.
Yeah.
My Sophia's getting better, but you don't have much hope for him.
No. I think he'll take to the arts. Which is also
to the arts.
How would you be on the sidelines, do you think, if your boy played?
Oh, I would be just horrible.
Pretty vicious, maybe?
Probably.
I can see that in you.
Yeah, probably.
You have a similar Jaime Buxton, Sarah Dolan kind of disposition to you that you can keep it together, but if somebody messes with your baby, it's over.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good. Okay.
What do we think Ellis might play?
Yeah.
I don't know, running anywhere.
He's pretty active already.
Yes, he is.
He's got some strength. He's standing before he should. He's trying to keep up with Trey.
Yeah, we were at the library yesterday, and there was 2 other babies about his age, maybe a month older or younger, and he was just running circles around them. And by running, I mean crawling. Circles around them. Literally.
Were they oldest children, do you think, or were they just...
They were, yes.
Yeah, that'll
they
do
were
it.
the only baby in the family, yes.
Yep. He will forever be. It's like Michael Jordan. If you know
Trying
his
to keep
family
up.
story, he was like the younger one,
Mhm.
and his older brothers just destroyed him for years, and it turned him into this competitive monster.
Yeah.
I think you just defined my Gideon.
It's true.
I know.
I watch it in my Matthias. He's been frustrated by being almost the youngest,
Yeah.
and he's going to prove to them all that
Yeah.
he's better.
Well,
Faster, stronger.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron Eastwood, how were you on the sidelines?
Most of the time, pretty good. There-
most of the time.
I would go to games like on a Saturday, so I'd been up at UPS all night, and then maybe catch an hour or two nap, and off we'd go to a game somewhere. And so my normal faculty filters weren't always in place. And there was one game where for some reason all our parents were yelling at the ref about his bad officiating. And I don't like to do that, I figure a ref is probably, if he's bad both ways. It's unlikely that he's only bad at your team. So I get ready to yell, "Go Gap," which is the name of our team. And somebody yells about the ref. And so here I am yelling at the top of my lungs, "Come on, ref." And I'm like, why did I say that?
So it sounded like you were complaining about the officiating. Ron Eastwood.
At that time, the coach of our team had heard all this chirping from our parents and was coming around. And he said, basically, if I hear anyone else yell about the refs, your child is going to sit the rest of this game.
Ron got run in trouble.
I was waiting for you to say you were
Did your
ejected.
kid get benched?
I didn't get benched. And Mark didn't.
Oh,
no.
You would have been in big trouble.
It would have been the next time. And I made a point, don't say anything. If you can't control what's coming out of your mouth, just don't say anything.
It's something when it's your kid. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad you didn't get in trouble. There was my kids played in the Manaway soccer league.
Mm-hmm.
Great town, great league. Nothing bad to say about it. There was one game though where two coaches almost got in a fist fight.
Oh my gosh,
That's
it's like
crazy.
not that serious. It's
Literally,
not that serious.
this was not our
Right.
game. But at this tournament, one coach ripped his shirt off and started to fight another coach.
Oh
Wait,
my
like
God.
And my
Hogan
sweet
ripped
little
This
mom
is
was
just-
sitting over there
Over
waiting
kids'
for us to come
baseball.
back. And she was like, "You guys got to come back." They called security.
So when you say he ripped it, was it like Hulk
No,
Hogan?
took
from
it
the,
off. Not like, no Hulk Hogan, I don't think. But
Why
like,
do you have to take
what
your
does
shirt
that
off to
even mean?
fight?
Yeah,
Because then
I
it'll
know.
get dirty. Keep it on.
I don't know.
I don't really fight people because I'd lose. Is
Yeah.
the primary reason. The second is I don't think it's a great idea. But I'm not certain my first reflex would be, quick, let me take my
I need to
shirt
take my
off.
shirt off so I can punch
Right.
this guy.
Was the
Yeah.
guy ripped or something? You thought
I
that'd be
don't know.
intimidating?
I don't know. I stayed away.
It's just like not that serious.
We could have my mom call in
Youth
and tell us
sports.
she was there. She was like, "I'm a little anxious over
Your
here.
mom.
What are you guys getting me at the snack stand? Like, come back."
It's hard to describe. It's always been that way. When I was the coach of the worst girls varsity soccer team in the conference. And there's no question about us being the worst. We were last every time.
Mm-hmm.
It was still, I liked the girls. They were great. I had almost every year to write a letter to the parents saying, "Stop it. You are horrible. And you can't do this anymore." And I had a couple of parents who were convinced that their daughters were on the edge of a full ride somewhere. And
Wow.
I wanted to go up to them and go, what is going on with you? We're the worst team. Your daughter is an average player on the worst team in this conference. No recruiter is ever going to come to one of our games. And if they did, they wouldn't pick your kid. I can't say that, obviously. But it's like, I was even talking to the barber in Garrettsville. We just chit-chat. He's such a great guy. Main Street Barbershop. He was chatting about this too. He said, "Brian, there's been no football player to make the NFL from Garrettsville since like 1972 or something." And yet he's got parents in there coming in talking about how they're going to, their kid's going to get recruited D1 and go in the NFL. No, you're not. No, you're not.
It's not going to happen.
My kid's not going to be a YouTube star. Your
Hey,
kid's
you
not going to
never
be a
know.
professional athlete.
YouTube can go anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't take much talent on YouTube, I suppose.
Careful there.
I was going to say, you.
Well, I mean, we're not YouTube stars yet. My oldest son and I, we'll get to a break here in a second, Lauren, sorry. But my oldest son and I we were sitting there doing something, and one of our kids was watching YouTube. And people make money doing things.
Oh, yeah.
This one guy, he's like, hey, everybody, it's me again. He's standing in a canal somewhere in like Georgia, somewhere. I don't know. Well, we're gonna look for stuff in here. It's like magnet fishing or just like reaching in. Today we're gonna see if we can find any murder weapons. What?
I'm not going to lie. I've gotten really, really sucked into some YouTube. I don't even know what it's called, but they search for missing peoples in rivers. Like they're looking for their cars that people, either accidental deaths or people have hurt people or whatever. And I'm all in.
It's the weirdest thing. I mean, the guy found a butter knife. He found like a Target cart, a grocery cart. Mm-hmm. There's no murder weapons in here.
Quite the haul there.
But it was so outrageous that he was saying this. We just laughed. My son and I were like, what? My little boy was like, oh, wow, what if he finds one? Oh, get out of here. What is this?
Well, these people find the cars. I'm telling you, I'm all over it.
They find cars like in lakes and stuff?
Yeah, and with people in them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they solve missing persons cases.
This is on YouTube?
Yes.
Oh, very scary.
Sounds like old Unsolved Mysteries or something back in
I loved Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
Did you remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
I actually knew the producers. Thanks.
What?
Really? Very scary.
Who was that guy who was in charge of it?
Robert?
Something. Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh my gosh, I used to not be able to sleep after watching Unsolved Mysteries.
And the reenactments were so
And always
bad.
the ones with the alien ones were so scary.
Oh yeah, they did drift into that because they covered all the unsolved ones, so they had to drift into like aliens,
UFOs and stuff.
Yeah,
Robert Stack.
Robert Stack, yeah.
Very scary.
Wonder how he's doing. Maybe I'm not gonna ask that. He's probably gone. Yep. It's 6:19. Time for a quick break. It's Follow-Up Friday. What are we going to get to today? You never know. It's Follow-Up Friday.
We're all over the board today.
440-546-2255.
We have an exciting invite for you. Visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago this fall for Experience Moody, our campus visit day. Experience life as a Moody student, attend classes, go to chapel, meet with students and advisors, and explore our world-class city. Learn more about whether Moody is right for you or your student. If you can't make the in-person visit days, we'd love to visit with you online. Learn more about any of our campus visit options at moody.edu/visit.
Moody Radio is thankful for support for businesses across the country, like Fellowship Home Loans. Whether purchasing or refinancing a home, Mike and Brian walk hand in hand with clients through the whole process. You can learn more about their approach to mortgage lending at fellowshiphomeloans.com.
For some women, this struggle is very real.
Would anyone love me if they knew? Will I ever be free from porn?
First, you're not alone in this. And second, freedom is possible. Dr. Julie Slattery and Dr. Joy Skarka have written a new 8-week book and workbook called Her Freedom Journey, a beautiful blend of research, biblical truth, and very personal stories. Find Her Freedom Journey today at moodybooks.org.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
My annoying little brother talked way too much growing up. Now you get to listen to him instead of me.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF, it is 6:24. We got the team for a follow-up Friday, 440-546-2255. And all morning, the czar of fun from City Mission, Jaime Buxton.
That's me.
Hey, we love when she's here. And you can help us talk about this, actually. Our big second annual Fill the Van campaign for Laura's Home is coming up soon. Now, for those who don't know, what's your elevator speech on Laura's Home? What is that?
Laura's Home is a women's and children's crisis center. We currently have about 62 women and over 70 kids living with us. Lots of those kids are school-age children, and we're long-term programming to help them reach back to self-sufficiency and overcoming the barriers in their life. So filling the bus is getting those kids ready to go back to school, and we're pretty excited about it.
So are we. Yeah, we're asking you to get school supplies, and we're going to specifically fill that City Mission van on August 6th. We'll be broadcasting live from outside of Laura's Home. If the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise or the rain don't come or something.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it that day, on August 6th at Laura's Home, you can ship your stuff to us, either yourself or, I mean, the easiest thing in the world is to get stuff on Amazon and just put our address in there. If you don't know what our address is, there's this really cool thing. I've heard it's a series of tubes. It's the internet. You just look it up.
Or you can text us. And
we can give you the address if you want, but I don't know.
It's on the page.
Easy to find.
It's so easy to find. I mean, but again, if you want help, we'll help you.
You're not saying it right now because you don't know it.
9756 Bar Road.
You did it.
Well done.
Wow.
I was with you that he didn't know it.
He's repeatedly asked Ron to say it.
Yeah, well, I like throwing Ron under the bus when I don't know things.
Ron knows everything. So.
Well, that's part of the deal, too. Yeah. He knows everything. So send it here. If you want more information about what they're looking for and all the details in the broadcast and such, text the word supplies to 440-546-2255. Text supplies to 440-546-2255.
Woohoo! She is so fun.
He is.
That was throughout the morning, you're going to hear that sound. Can we hear it again, Ron?
Woohoo!
Now, it may be Jaime Buxton in person here.
You never know.
Like, would you do it quickly?
Woohoo!
It's a little lower, which is nice.
Well, I'm a little raspier today than normal.
Sometimes it's Ron.
She's got her jazz voice on.
Woohoo!
Her jazz voice. The only way you're going to know if it's Jaime Buxton, like today, you'd have to watch the live stream. So you can text live to 440-546-2255. Text live to 440-546-2255. And you'll also see how Lauren and I are a little matchy today.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Much to
but I'm feeling a little left out.
Did you notice it?
I did notice it.
I almost thought Daria was wearing the same color for a second.
Hey,
well, you're all wearing different shades of green.
Let me come over there.
Jamie's is just a little bit
Theirs
brighter.
is a lot more
You're
camo
going to stand
than
behind
mine.
me, I think Daria says.
You can see a shoulder. There we go. That's just his face.
There he
Lauren
is.
is like so creeped out.
Did you saw me wear this and you were like, oh, we could match today. That'd be fun. We sit at the same table.
Well, first of all, I get here first, so no, I didn't know what you were wearing.
I changed my shirt too when I got here.
So you probably saw me first.
Maybe.
I actually
No, I
said, oh
didn't.
my gosh, I'm going to go change my shirt. We can't be matching.
Yeah, I know.
Is actually what I said.
So that's why I was surprised that you're still wearing it.
Well, I brought my jacket, but it's not cold enough in here yet. About 7 o'clock, it'll get too cold.
Okay. Well, we didn't do it on purpose. Just great minds think alike, as they say. Huh, Lauren?
Yeah.
I don't like the tone. I don't know if I like the tone. Okay, let's review some of the week's topics and see what it is you want to talk about. You could also bring up something that we haven't discussed that you'd like us to talk about, or perhaps there's an issue in your life you'd like Jamie and Lauren to solve for you. They love doing those things.
But nobody ever calls in with one.
It happens sometimes.
It's
Not
usually
for
like
me.
right at the end of the day
Right.
or morning.
Like it could be a relationship issue, a church culture issue, or a conflict with a sibling, or anything. They'd love to help you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
Did your boyfriend take you on a bad date, and how do you talk to him about it?
I mean, I fished for this last time, having boyfriends call in to ask us how to propose or take on a cute date. No one ever calls.
Wait. So, but I want to back up. What to do if your boyfriend takes you on a bad date?
Yeah, and you got to tell him about it or something. Like, how do you tell him?
I've never had a concept of this before because I just presumed it was a nice gesture to take someone on a date. I didn't realize we could complain about this.
What
Please,
constitutes?
can we go down this?
I don't know. I just was saying things you could text in about.
Okay, but what constitutes a bad date? Like, if it's really bad, then you never want to see him again. But, like, what is a bad date with someone that you're in a long-term relationship with, and you're just like, let's not do that again?
They got to tell me. I don't know.
I had one.
Did you?
Oh.
Mine wasn't a long-term, though. But
So this wasn't Sean Buxton, lest he
this
be
was
thrown
not
under the bus.
Sean Buxton.
He wouldn't take you on a bad date. I mean, come on. It's Sean Buxton.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But no, I just had a guy trying way too hard one time. And it was just like event after event after event. And I just wasn't that interested, and like took me to Build-A-Bear. And I actually was like,
Were you too old for Build-A-Bear?
No, I was actually like I'm not that into you. Like, don't buy me a Build-A-Bear.
Why
It
was that
terrible.
such a thing?
But is that terrible? I just was like, that was
No.
really thoughtful. But like,
No,
let's not do that.
No,
Because
no,
those are
that's fine.
expensive.
That's the
exactly.
nice thing.
They
And
are
I don't need
expensive.
you like your
Was he going to record his
record
voice in
his
the little
voice in there.
horn?
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
my
like,
Gosh.
really nice, but like,
Do people
let's
still
just
do that?
I don't know if people still do it, but they sure did in
I think so.
2000.
I was just talking to someone that she got set up on a date with the guy that would be her husband, and she wanted out of this date, so she dressed really, really bad. So that he would not want to see her again, and they ended up getting married.
Yeah, that's not going to work. I could have told her that.
That's so. Do you want to know my
He probably
parents?
was like, she's so beautiful.
Yeah,
Evidently, she was like, I'm determined to make this guy not like me, and now they've got kids.
When I met Sarah, we were working for a parks department, so she was like grass stained, unshowered. It doesn't matter. Beauty does not need all the things that women think it needs. Right, Ron?
Right.
See? Thank you. Go ahead.
my parents. Well,
No one
my
was arguing.
aunt and my dad were actually set up by their aunts. And my aunt Pam was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst date ever." And my mom was making fun of her. And well, Jim Seaman did not show because he also thought the same thing about being set up by his aunt. And then had his aunt made him go over and apologize, where he met my mom. And then there was some dates. Isn't that so
wow.
funny?
Look at that.
And
I would
then they got
not
married.
trust my aunts to set me up. Love you guys? No.
Well, good thing you're married. You don't have to worry about
Yeah,
it. But,
exactly.
But you wouldn't have done it earlier, is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
I had a couple of bad dates. I had, I think this sweet girl in high school, I don't think she'd been on a date before because she was so nervous she could hardly talk the whole time. And so that wasn't fun. I would just like,
Oh, it's sad.
I know it was sweet. She wasn't terrible. She was super nice.
I
And
was nervous.
But she was so nervous. It's like, yeah.
And then you ruined her life and didn't go on another date.
Well, no, I served a purpose. It was like, she got that out of the way. First date.
I served a purpose.
And then I'm sure the next one she wasn't quite as nervous.
Oh my god.
Or maybe you scarred her because it was her first date.
No, I was really nice. I took her to dinner. I took her to a movie. It was really nice.
I thought he liked me. He was so nice, and now he's not talking to me. What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I still talked to her. We just didn't go on a date again. It was obvious it didn't work out.
Text or call with your worst date story.
Please.
And the winner will get Mornings with Brian merch. Swag.
We got brand new swag.
A matching shirt with Brian.
I'm waiting for Ron to jump in with the 1980s bad date.
I've told you before that when Ron Eastwood was dating, there was not a lot of dating going on.
I resemble that remark as well, brother. All right, 6:32, time for a quick break.
Text or call.
We're going to pause for prayer. You can text or call.
With your
Lauren
worst
seems
date
very
stories.
serious
Yeah,
about
we're gonna
this.
give away stuff.
Would
Don't you
you-
want stuff?
Yeah, and we have Mornings with Brian sunglasses, lots
We
of
have
them.
sunglasses, magnets for your fridge or your car, mugs.
Wow. 440-546-2255.
I'm Nate Hunter, and this is Pause for Prayer. Mike Rowe, television host of Dirty Jobs, has applauded a Chick-fil-A franchise in Hammond, Louisiana for its innovative summer camp designed to teach children practical life skills. The camp, to be held in July, has garnered attention for its unique approach to child education through real-world business insights, although it has also sparked controversy among a section of public that is calling it child labor. Let's pause for prayer. King of Kings and Lord of Lords, we call on you to hear our prayer. Before we ask you for anything, we want to first thank you for everything. We could not breathe without you providing the air. We could not talk, think, or be saying this prayer without your strength and energy. On that note, Lord, thank you for Mike Rowe and for his care for children. Thank you that he is providing an opportunity for 5 to 12-year-olds to have a working experience and a chance to learn business skills. Please silence the naysayers and bring many kids his way through their parents hearing of this program. Understanding Mike Rowe's business model for kids at a national level, I would like to pray for the Two and Company at a local level. Bless my wife, Sherry Hunter, and the staff as they provide opportunities for special needs people to work and learn business practices. We know these practices, Lord, are not new because we find in Psalm 78:5 that Jacob appointed, quote, a law in Israel which he commanded our fathers to teach their children, that the next generation might know them, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God. Thank you for these two modern-day models built on scriptural principles. In Jesus' name, amen.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:40 on WCRF. It's Follow-Up Friday. We got Jaime Buxton here on Mornings with Brian this morning. We're excited to have you here, Jaime. And let's review some of the week's topics and see what it is that you want to talk about, okay? First one came from the New York Times just a few days ago. We got a big, long comment on this one. It's the magic phrase you could use, as they say, when someone asks you nosy questions, like ones that make you really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, you're married. Maybe it's been a couple of years. When are you going to have kids? Which, for so many reasons, is something you should not ever ask someone.
Why don't people know that enough yet, though? I just don't understand how we...
I don't know. It's called predatory curiosity.
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't that funny? I think it's very funny. And they gave like 3 different options and responses. One of them was like, that's personal, and I'd rather not talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a variety of other answers, too. But somebody thought that the problem was not other people. The problem was the receiver's too sensitive, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk more about that later. Is God calling you to more obscurity or influence? And this came from somebody who was a aspiring writer and such, but ultimately looked at the life of Christ and the culture we live in today and how people strive so much to be influencers.
Mm-hmm.
But many, many times, followers of Christ are called to obscurity. And it's far too often what people think that they don't want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But obscurity sometimes is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't need to be world famous to make a huge difference for the kingdom. Then you have thinking biblically about relational boundaries from the Gospel Coalition's the article. And this is not like dating boundaries or something. This is the trend in society of cutting people out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're toxic, you're out. Saying, I don't know if that's biblical. We're supposed to bear with one another. You talked about that verse this week in a really good moment, Lauren. And in this case, it really, I think, is the case where we really ought to have very few situations where we're willing to cut someone off completely. We really ought to find a way, maybe to set some boundaries, but not cut people off as followers of Christ. That's how you grow in intimacy and how you grow in knowledge and things like that. Mm. Gen Z boys are trying to get better jawlines by chewing really hard gum. Did you know that?
Mewing?
You know about
She's
this.
heard of this.
She has boys.
I have 4 boys. Of course I do.
Are they trying to get jawline chewing gum or rock jaw chewing gum?
No, I don't think so. I don't think my boys care that much.
They have great jawlines already?
I mean, they're really good looking.
Is that like, have women, we talked about this, right? Like,
yeah, the gua sha.
But do women care about that? A good jawline? I don't know that I've heard anyone talking
more
about
under
that.
the chin. They're more worried about, if there's a double chin or more.
I mean, different women care about different things, and I mean, every guy is different and special in their own way.
And sometimes when it's too pronounced, it's a little scary.
I knew a guy in college, really, really nice guy. I don't want to like rag on him. He had like the biggest, squarest jaw I've ever seen in my life. Like his head was a square. It was kind of
like Johnny Bravo.
Very, 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 very sweet guy that was kind of odd to look at.
Ooh, Minecraft guy.
But
box.
I suppose there's women who are jawline girls. Like,
I guess.
Sure.
But dentists are very concerned. This is not good for your teeth.
Yes, but it's like grinding your teeth or like clenching your jaw. Yeah.
I mean, like when I was a kid and you bought a gumball from a gumball machine and it was rock hard within 6 seconds, you'd spit it out.
Yeah.
Because it's not fun to chew rock hard anything. So.
And usually the flavor was gone in 6 seconds anyway.
Yeah, probably 5. But it was fun to watch it come out of the gumball machine. So.
Yep.
That's 4.5 seconds of your life.
Yeah, well, there you go. Okay. We also discussed the idea that there's some upside-down statistics from a recent study from the American Bible Society where you have essentially more Christians thinking it's very important to be civically engaged versus caring for the oppressed. And caring for the oppressed is is explicitly stated as something we ought to prioritize as believers. Where civic engagement, it's not explicitly stated. Jesus wasn't like, love your neighbor and be sure to vote every November in thy mercy, amen. He did, talk about, give to Caesar what Caesar's. Paul talked about honoring government authority. So did Peter. But
sometimes through civic engagement, you can care for those that are the oppressed. But
absolutely,
it's not as tangible as actually doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to talk about that. And there was an article that talked about how we ought to better be evangelizers in an era where people live their own truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes throwing truth in people's face that don't believe there is objective truth will not be a really great, effective strategy. Then there's the 777 rule in relationships.
I forgot about that one.
I bet Jaime Buxton's all over this.
I have no idea what the 777 rule is.
Here's the basics. This means that you and Sean Buxton, to be very healthy, every 7 days you're going on a date. Did you laugh already?
We haven't even got to the best part.
Every 7 weeks, you and your significant other should spend a night away together. You made a funny
That's
face.
maybe happened like 3 times in 18 years of marriage.
Every 7 months, the two of you should take a romantic vacation.
Okay. 777. I mean, that's great. That's great. If you can do that, that's great. I do mean that. It is great, but I can't. We don't have time for that.
Do you guys do date nights? Like, what does that look like for the Buxtons?
It's pretty rare. And usually it means, oh my gosh, our kids aren't here. Let's just order Chinese food and watch whatever we want on TV.
That sounds great.
Those are the
really
best.
Nice.
That's what it usually ends up.
I'm going to do that today.
You really should.
Yeah, you should.
You and Eddie deserve that. That'd be fun. Oh, Chinese takeout is so good.
It's the best.
Except then you don't always feel great later. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right, but
but
sits
going
pretty
down,
heavy.
it's great.
And when you're in the heat of parenting, the idea of going out to a restaurant sounds exhausting. And then you're like, well, and then you got to pay more money for a tip. God bless you if you're a server, but I don't have much money right now. Staying home.
That's great.
It's my sweet spot.
I genuinely want to talk to the person that could afford to do this.
Truly.
That is going to add up very, very fast.
You know, though, who I think is probably doing this are people who are empty nesters.
I was going to say, I have a good friend. I don't know if this is the rule they follow or if they even have a rule, but my good friends, Jen and Mark, they do this really well. But their kids are a freshman in college, well, going to be a sophomore in college and a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And they do. I look at them and go, you really like your husband. I love how much. I mean, I love Sean. Please, but
you don't have to say that.
But
we understand.
they really like each other, and that's them. They do this kind of stuff, and it's their. I'm sure their marriage is not perfect. None is, but from the outside, it's like, oh, Jen and Mark, they're so cute.
But the thought of a romantic vacation twice in a 12-month period is wild to me.
Most people don't even have that much vacation time.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get a week at most places.
Right.
Sounds fun, though.
Yeah.
It does. It sounds great, but there's a lot of logistical issues here.
Yeah.
I need the cash to do it and the time off to do it, and someone who's going to, take care of your kids or take care of your animals or get your kids to high school if they can't drive yet.
No, it's totally true.
It's just like...
My wife is taking most of the kids to Minnesota in a couple of weeks, and I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to be with my wife and my kids, but we got donkeys to take care of, and I got a job, and all those kind of things. So, but I think the point for people who are in the thick of raising a family, it's the idea of marriage maintenance is so important. And if you don't do it, you're going to pay for it in the long run.
And you gave a good tip of an activity to do together.
I do?
Yeah. What is it? The John Gottman cards?
Yeah. Yes. They are called Gottman card decks. And what they are, it's an app. It's a free app. And John Gottman is one of the leading marriage psychologists in the world. Ask any psychologist, they'll go, oh, yeah, he is. And he's done a ton of research. But it's an app that helps you have good conversation with your spouse. Because what you end up, if you and Sean went out to dinner tonight, you probably just talk logistics and kids and then go home.
Right.
And that's not growing your marriage. It has you ask open-ended questions.
Admin work.
Yeah, right.
It's house admin.
That's right.
It's most of what Sarah and my interactions are. So it's helpful to have that maintenance. All right, we have to take a break. We'll continue reviewing the topics. What do you want to talk about? 440-546-2255.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody. She was hopelessly hooked on drugs.
I ended up living in my car for a couple of weeks.
But she found Christ, and Moody Radio helped disciple her.
I felt like God was really speaking into my life through Moody Radio specifically.
Lisa is now a graduate of Moody and invites you to consider a gift to 48 Hours of Impact.
You're sending one person who is then going to reach so many other people for the kingdom. Be a part of all of that.
Give online at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support from our listeners and businesses like Fellowship Home Loans. They'll talk about the numbers as well as your hopes, dreams, and the market's reality. Home is where the heart is. It's where families grow and where dreams are born. More information is at 800-804-7283. That's 800-804-SAVE or fellowshiphomeloans.com. Welcome home.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
You're listening to Moody Radio Cleveland, where it's 6:55. Don't forget, our friend Jaime Buxton is here all morning for our follow-up Friday.
I thought you were going to say for better or worse. She's here.
For richer or
Whether
poor.
you like it or not. No, she's fantastic, and she works with City Mission, and we're partnering with City Mission to fill their van with school supplies for the kids living at Laura's Home, which is a Women and Children's Crisis Center. And they need school supplies. The kids start school soon. We're doing a live broadcast on August 6th. Bring your school supplies that day. So pick them up while you're at the store or whatever, Dollar General or Giant Eagle or Mark's, wherever you are. And then bring them that day. Or you could ship them to the station or drop them off. Just let us know in advance. For more information about the whole thing, plus the list of school supplies, text the word supplies to 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. We're going through some of the week's topics to see what it is you want to talk about. And we certainly have some comments to visit from throughout the week. So the Washington Post covered a really interesting piece of information from the Centers for Disease Control. When you ask parents how often teens get the emotional support they need, 76.9% of parents were like, "Oh yeah, no, my teenager always gets the support they need."
Emotional support they need.
And when you ask kids, 27% said they always get the emotional support they need. Isn't that tough?
Yeah.
As a parent of teens.
Yeah. That's really hard to hear.
But I think it's also important for parents to hear it and grandparents. The old walk it off isn't working.
No.
And Daria made a really great comment earlier this week about, as a parent who's been through a lot of issues in life, your kid has a broken heart from a silly little boyfriend or something, and you're just like, it's fine. You'll find there's bigger fish in the sea. Don't worry about it. But to them, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
Right.
Isn't that essentially what you said?
Literally, because they haven't gone through much in their lives. This is literally the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
So maybe that's some of the disparity. We don't know. Maybe we'll have to talk about that. Your body language could be offensive to others, according to Psychology Today. And we all learned on the team, except Ron, that we have some work to do. Because Ron has just got a pleasant disposition.
He does.
He does.
And he's good with his body language. The rest of us, Lauren, Daria, and I, have resting angry face.
Right.
And they talked about some tips on how to handle that.
I don't know.
I think you're
I
pleasant.
just told someone the other day, I get asked a lot, like, are you okay if I give you a hug? And it's not like just a polite, like it's like, I'm obviously like making some sort of gesture that does not approve of hug receiving. And like, are you going to be okay if I give you a hug? Not like, yeah. I'm like, oh.
You're not giving the warm fuzzies.
Apparently not. And I think that I am genuinely warm-ish.
Well,
I'm surprised by that, but maybe you're just so happy to see us that it's
Maybe
just we
like
see a different
us.
side of you.
I'm not certain that either of you, Lauren or Daria, are giving out the hug me vibes
no.
either.
Please don't hug
But
me.
you're
No.
intentionally giving out the don't hug me vibes.
Yeah.
It depends on who we're talking with.
Well, if it's Jimmy, your husband.
I like hugs, but don't just come up and hug me.
Don't just come up and hug me.
Predatory hugs.
Predatory hugs.
How would someone know if they have permission? Like you would say, I'd like a hug now.
Yeah, or
From you.
they can ask me.
I'd like a hug now.
I don't think anyone's ever said that
Like
to
you
someone.
can I hug you? Like that's fine to say, and just be prepared. If I don't know you well, I might say no.
And I can't help it where when I'm just relaxed and like just being me, I'll look at the camera every once in a while. Well, or all the time, depending on if you're Lauren and can see me do it. And I'll be like, oh, I have to make a face that doesn't seem so grumpy. I have a grumpy face. When I'm listening during an interview, if you go back and watch videos on YouTube, it's like,
Oh yeah, those are my favorite to edit.
like I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Pleasantly so.
I don't feel
Thinking.
I don't feel any type of way about changing my face. That's just how it is. Why am I okay? Like that's how God made me look. So what am I? That's just my face. That's
just
what my
my
face
face.
looks like. I don't feel any type of pressure to change what my face looks like.
You have a lovely face.
Thanks.
Thanks. The way you said that was not lovely. Then we talked a lot about the parable of the Good Samaritan as well. Lauren read it for us quite eloquently.
Thank you.
It was lovely as well.
Thank you.
And we talked about all the implications of what that story means, but some really interesting ones was that we really are learning from that story that Christ suggests, as the article says, our obligation to love means we must fix messes we didn't cause and cure injustices for which we weren't responsible. And that reality of the story is rarely talked about and makes a lot of people, especially in America, very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. We had someone text in the next day and said, I've been thinking about that conversation since yesterday.
Good.
Just change their perspective.
We love hearing that. Thanks for sharing.
That's the point. We want God's word to transform the way you think, not us. But if you look at that story, there's many meanings. This is why there's so many sermons about it, because Jesus gave such a really cool story with so much to talk about. But again, the story, and in here, Jesus is telling us, ultimately, our obligation to love means we're going to fix messes we didn't cause. And here's the real hard one: cure injustices for which we weren't responsible. And I don't know how many times I've heard Christians in America say to me in radio work, that's not my problem. I didn't cause that. I don't have to do anything about it. My neighbor's hurting, not my fault. The person that caused that pain should be the one that has to solve it. And I don't think that's biblical. I've never thought it's biblical, but this description of the parable of the Good Samaritan really helped clarify for me more why it's not a biblical way to think. What do you want to talk about? 440-546-2255. And we didn't even tell you, Jamie, by the way, about there's a new cooking oil.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
It's a new cooking oil.
Which
is your favorite? Olive?
Olive.
Do you use avocado oil?
Not very often.
Lauren loves it. It's her favorite.
It's not as flavorful.
I know this is going to really offend people, but I'm not the cook in my house.
That's not. I'm the cook in my house.
Gas.
That's fine. Sean likes to cook.
Sean likes to cook.
But
good.
Good for him.
It's you can make cooking oil from algae oil. Sean would love this.
Maybe. It sounds intriguing to
He's a birder. I think birders love algae.
And he's a chemist.
Listen,
I was going to say, isn't he a science guy? They like algae.
I was gone for the weekend with the kids, and what did Sean do? Pickled some pickles and went to the produce auction and started making applesauce, like living his best life at home.
There are lots of jealous women listening right now.
I love that.
He's spoken for, ladies.
All right, it's 7:03. It's time for Ron's News and today's Moron Moment. 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Biden met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday as the administration pushes for a ceasefire in Gaza. It's 7:03. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The two leaders held a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office before meeting with families of American hostages being held by the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Netanyahu also met with Vice President Harris, now considered the de facto Democratic nominee, separate later in the day. An agreement has been reached to settle a federal lawsuit against the city of Akron. The Akron Bail Fund filed their suit in reaction to police officers' actions during protests that came after the 2022 killing of Jayland Walker. As part of the settlement announced yesterday, new police policies developed with public input are to be implemented with a focus on limiting the use of force and the banning of free speech. And a statewide program is aimed at increasing the number of skilled trade workers in Ohio while helping incarcerated youths find paths to stable careers. Through this program, current tradespeople have been visiting juvenile correction facilities to inform young inmates who are close to finishing their high school education about training opportunities in fields like electrical, plumbing, and HVAC installation. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
We all want our kids to know the Bible and to know Jesus personally. So check out Today in the Word Family Studies. This month, help your children explore the book of Genesis in our companion devotional. God has the perfect plan, with easy-to-understand lessons and fun learning activities to help your children better understand God's Word. To get your Today in the Word devotional and download the free Go Along Family Study, go to todayintheword.com. Spend time in God's Word together.
In sports, the Guardians were blanked by the Tigers 3-0. Better luck next time. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Patchy fog this morning, giving way to sunny skies and highs around 80 degrees. Currently, clear skies all across our listening area. It is 58 degrees in Cleveland, 58 in Akron and Canton, 56 degrees in Lorain and Elyria.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
Over 10,000 athletes will sail down the Seine River today in what is poised to be the most ambitious Olympic opening ceremony ever attempted. To commemorate the official start of the Olympics, which were last held in Paris exactly a century ago, organizers have spent years orchestrating a dynamic and distinctly French affair. The live NBC broadcast kicks off with a pre-show at noon Eastern Time, and the ceremony itself begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:07. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
was Francesca Battistelli, and we got Jaime Buxton in from City Mission here on Mornings with Brian all day. Thanks for coming in. That was real, Jamie.
That was real.
Good.
That was not
I
recorded,
tried.
Jamie. Nice job.
Thanks.
And it's Follow-Up Friday. One of the ones I wanted to cover was a very thoughtful, sweet question we got from a listener earlier this week, and they suggested it be for Friday.
Okay.
And I think this would apply to you too, Jamie, because you have a public position.
A public position.
You do.
I do.
You are kind of like the community spokesperson for City Mission. Am I right on that?
Yeah. Our CEO, Linda, love her. She likes being out in the community. But yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm the spokesperson for the City Mission when she's
TV?
not available. I've been on other radio stations.
I was going to bring that up.
Uh-oh.
I just thought I'd say it first so you can't make me look like a jerk.
That's not in your contract. So.
I saw like online once. I was like,
He did.
What did
He
you
was
do?
real bitter about it. I think there was a personal text like, "Where were you today?" It's okay.
Oh, I don't think there was a personal text.
I know there was too. Okay,
I know
fine.
there was. But here's the question. Do you all on the morning team, and I'll include you in this, Jamie, run into the challenges of being public personalities?
Because we were talking is from the conversation obscurity versus influence.
Yeah, like the Christian call is often to obscurity, not to influence. But I think American culture presses people today, especially with social media, that to really make a difference for the kingdom, you should be an influencer of some sort. And so any thoughts from, Ron's been in radio the longest. Do you ever run into challenges of being a public personality? Even if the challenge is being annoyed or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a time earlier in my career where females would call into the station, and I'm talking like two, not hordes of women, but like one lady would call in. I worked a Sunday morning shift, and she'd be like needed a ride to church, and she kept dropping in her conversation, "I'm just a woman alone," and
Goodness sakes, Ron.
And I said, "Call the church."
Yeah.
You know,
I work at a radio station.
Yeah, I can't help you, and you really should seek help elsewhere. But I had that, if that counts.
I had that.
Yeah. There was a time where I had, I was chosen to speak at a church event because I was on the radio. And when I went there, I took my family with me. And there was a gal who insisted on sitting close by me and all of that, to the point that my young niece even noticed, and she went and sat between us.
That's cute.
So, yeah, just, the affections of women is what I struggle with.
Everybody loves Ron.
I didn't know about that.
That's hilarious.
That's great, Ron. Okay, thanks for sharing that. That's a challenge. Anybody else face challenges being a public personality?
I've gotten to the point where I try to keep people from finding out what I do for a living as long as possible.
Why?
Sometimes they act weird. Like I was at a concert once, and I was just like chatting with these two people next to me. I had never met them in my life, and I was just like, "Oh, I work at a radio station," and they got real weird. They were a little bit inebriated, but they just were asking like, "Can you get me on your station?" And like, "Why are you in the nosebleeds?" It's like, "Because this is a Carrie Underwood concert." My little station did not entitle me to meet Carrie Underwood. But you never know if people are going to like try to use you to get on your station. I've not like really encountered that with someone I'd gotten close to, but it is kind of in the back of my mind. So like making friendships can be a little bit more challenging because people are like, "Oh my gosh, like you're on the radio. That's so exciting." And it's like, no, I want people to know me for me, not for my quote unquote public persona.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Jamie or Lauren, either of you experience any challenges of being a public personality? It's kind of new for you, Lauren.
Yeah, I first experienced it when we started our Car Seat Questions podcast. And we kind of went mini viral on Instagram. And you're just open to people critiquing you.
Yeah.
And at that time, our producer and myself were running our social media sites together. And like, I'm talking in a month, we had over 8,000 followers on Instagram. So it really like blew up really fast. And it's people who don't know you, but they're interested in that type of content. And I had to say, I can't read these comments anymore. Even if it wasn't about like what I look like or sound like.
Which some of it was that.
Some of it was that, but it's also like my thoughts on things and my beliefs on things they're critiquing or totally trashing or just ripping to shreds, taking things out of context. And so I had to say, it's not good for me to be on our social media anymore and see that. It's good for our brand of this podcast to be on social media. It's good for us to get this content out there. It's not good for me as a person to be reading the comments and to see it and to interact with it. So
some of it was scary, as I recall, wasn't it? Like people said some horrible things.
Yeah, there was pretty bad stuff. Yeah.
Stuff we can't even say here.
Yeah, there was one or two videos that got over, I think one of them got like 4 million views. And so it just goes to like a really wide group of people that don't believe the same things as you, that don't think the same things as you. So I had to just kind of step away from that.
And you can tell yourself, oh, they're just crazy trolls on the internet. And it's easy to say that when they're not saying things about you.
Right.
And that's where people who kind of go, oh, get over it, it's just a bunch of trolls. They've never experienced someone saying something horrible to them.
It's easy to say, oh, well, there's so much more positive things being said than negative. But once you read a negative comment, it has so much more weight than the positive ones.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the ratio is like interpersonally. People have that one with compliments, right? It takes 10 compliments, let's just say, to cover up one negative comment.
Right.
I think on the internet, the ratio is even wider.
Because I think the comments are so much worse. Like if someone said something negative to you, normally they're going to, like in person, they're going to have a little bit of, discretion in what they're saying. But on the internet, they just say whatever they want and however cruelly they want to say it.
And it stays there.
And it stays there.
And everyone else can see it.
That's
it's not
right.
a private embarrassment. It's a public embarrassment.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to follow that because I'm not, nobody's 4 million anything me.
Well, me neither, to be honest. I haven't experienced. And let's do this. Jamie and I can comment on this question in just a minute here. We have a break in front of us. You're listening to Mornings with Brian on WCRF. Somebody texted in earlier this week and asked us today to cover. They said, do the four of you run into the challenges of being public personalities? We'll talk more about that in just a moment.
Moody Radio's thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
We'd love for you to help us fill a van full of school supplies to help the children at Laura's Home succeed this school year. Bring your school supply donations to Laura's Home on August 6th or 7th between 4 and 6 p.m. You can also stop by on Tuesday, August 6th from 6 to 9 a.m. to meet the Mornings with Brian team during our live broadcast at Laura's Home. For the list and location, text SUPPLIES to 440-546-2255 or visit our website, moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you. They encourage you, and it's proven, too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
Does it seem like your son or daughter will just not stop talking? My little brother is proof that not all hope is lost.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Cody Carnes, Moody Radio Cleveland, 724 on a follow-up Friday, 440-546-2255. Jaime Buxton with us all morning from City Mission. Thank you, Jamie.
Yay, yay.
And what we're chatting about now is a question we got as a follow-up to an article from Christianity Today we discussed. It's called, Is God Calling Me to Obscurity or Influence? In the beginning of this piece, the person talks about a pastor of a small church, about 150 people, and he's a really effective writer and speaker, and he regularly gets invitations to speak at conferences and contribute to Christian media outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, however, he typically declines when considering how much that work and absence would affect his flock's spiritual growth. Instead of building a platform, he's nurturing a community.
Mm.
And it's a very rare response in today's society.
Right.
And then she went on to talk about how difficult it is in today's society to build a platform. Like if you want to write a book, it really isn't even all that important anymore if you are a good writer and have good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
In order for a Christian publisher to pick you up, and Lauren verified this, you've got to have like a personal brand of substance.
Right. Yeah. My husband works at Moody Publishers, and they'll ask new authors that are trying to write a book, what kind of social media do they have? What kind of following do they have? Are they active? If they're not active on their social medias, they need to start getting active and putting out content out there.
Mm-hmm. And so it brings up lots of different questions about the call to Christian obscurity versus influence. There's a great cost to influence that people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what someone was getting at, where they said, hey, for Friday, do the four of you run into the challenges of being a public personality? And we heard from Daria and Lauren and Ron on this. You are out front for City Mission, and you've been on the show before. Have you experienced any negative baggage or anything with doing that, being a public personality?
I mean, I feel silly even answering that because I don't feel like, especially even in the room with you all, where this is your thing. But I do get people who say, "Well, how'd you get asked to fill in? Why do you get to do that?" And honestly, I think you know the answer. It's just kind of a coincidence.
You didn't try to get on the show.
No, I didn't, and I just said yes to hard things. You know, my first step was pause for prayer, and I literally said to a friend who was doing pause for prayer, shout out to Joy. And she was like, I think you'd be great at this. And I was like, I hate praying out loud. And I was like, I don't think I would be good at that. And she's like, well, just, and I just sort of fell into it,
Well, because the story would be, and right away, you knocked my socks off. You came into the station, I met you.
Mm-hmm.
You went back in the studio to record 5 pause for prayers. And I just kind of turned around. And about 10 minutes later, you came out.
Yeah.
And that is unheard of. For someone to do a pre-recorded 2-minute feature, many people take an hour to do that.
Yeah.
And you did it very quick. I was like, who is this? Who is this person?
I was so nervous. That's all. I just was really prepared.
And then we had you on the show once, and you just are so effective. And so it happened because God ordained it would happen, not because you were pining for it.
Right. But I'll admit, I'll be totally transparent. I love being the center of attention. I love when I make a room full of people laugh, and so it can be a really hard rub for me that way. I don't think that's the most Christ-like part of me, but I do think it gives me, a platform, whether it's in front of 10 people or getting to be on the air with you guys, to not be afraid. But what I love about this opportunity that, especially there's something just in this space, maybe I feel like I've been to a public counseling session when I leave, who you hear here is actually who I am. And sometimes I don't feel that comfortable being that person, maybe in a group of 5 people, but I can be in this space with you all. And that's a testimony to you all in this space, but also
Stop.
Don't. if I have the opportunity to do this, I want to be really who I am and really who God made me. And that is not a perfect, mold of a Christian woman. So
yeah,
that's just, but I would say it is hard. And it is hard for me to be obscure and not have an opinion and not being in charge kind of a person. And so, if I'm being totally transparent, I'm in a really transitional point in my life, and I'm measuring these things. I'm balancing obscurity and influence in my life right now. So,
are you?
I am. So,
what are you leaning towards? Do you think?
I don't know. I think my personality will always be an outspoken desire to have influence, right? But also balancing with that, it's okay to not have an opinion or have to be the center of attention in this specific whatever. So yeah, but I think that's hard. And I think that's real. And I think there's probably people cringing, like my husband going, oh, I'd much rather be obscure and it's just my job to be silent in the background and to serve quietly. And I can learn from him a lot and do.
Oh, Sean, you're the best.
He is pretty great.
Sean Buxton, your husband. I've talked about this before, I think, in some circumstances, so I'll keep it brief. But I used to really want to be an influencer. Like, I really wanted to be on a speaking circuit.
Yep.
I wanted to be a writer that people knew.
Mm-hmm.
I had all these big goals. And I even knew a guy at Moody who's done that. And his dad's famous pastor. And I was like looking up to this guy, like how I took him out to lunch. How do you do it?
Yeah.
And over the years, when I've gotten just a little taste of it, I've wanted it less and less.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that I totally shut down I had a website with a blog and everything when I first started here, and I just turned it off, shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it anymore. The older I get and the more I've had a chance to have some sort of platform, the less I've wanted it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are consequences to it. It is a little unpleasant sometimes.
Yeah.
I love it here. People don't grasp, though, because when you're on the other end of the radio, it feels like this is so cool. They're talking to this huge group of people. But when I'm in here, I'm talking to Ron and Lauren and Daria.
Exactly.
And you talk about the comfort level. It's because it feels like we're friends who are having an intentional, important conversation about something or silly conversation. And you sometimes forget people are listening. And so I've had two kind of catch-22s for this. One of them is friendships. I've been used a couple of times.
Mm.
And it's very hard to know whether somebody actually likes me or they just want to get on the radio.
Yeah.
So it's made me a little bit more reclusive than I would like and a little bit more of a loner than I would like. But then when I find people who really could care less what I do, because it's really not that, I'm not that interesting. I'm actually kind of a boring person.
Yeah. This is true, everyone.
And that's true. But I've found some people who really could care less about what I do, and they become great friends. But it's weird being known. You can't, especially in a church, you can't be anonymous.
Right.
It's weird having people I don't know be like, hey, Brian. Oh, hi. And the other one is mean people. Mean people it's not very common anymore. But I mentioned this week that Christians are more mean to each other than other people are. There was a guy, famous radio broadcaster out of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chuck Knapp, and he did secular radio for many years on one of the top stations in Minnesota. And then he refused to be more like Howard Stern when he came out, so he lost his job. Got picked up by the Christian station in town, was like number one. It was unheard of. And he said publicly that Christians were way meaner to him than anyone ever was when he was in top 40 radio. And it's true. I ran into my office a minute ago and I dug up a note I wrote to Chris Fabry and a couple of other people, a similar note, on October 10th, 2016. Here's what I said. I was like, sorry to bug you, Chris, but if you got a moment, I could use your wisdom. How does one grow thicker skin in this business? I think I'm basically operating with tissue paper sometimes. I know intellectually that some of the mean emails and calls, like one I just got today, are unfair and should be dismissed, and yet I still can't seem to shake it off as quickly as I'd like. Any advice that's worked from you? And then Chris wrote me one of the sweetest notes you'll ever imagine, because Chris is a wonderful man, just like he is on the air. And I've had a couple of other people give me advice, but when I transitioned into this show, it was horrible. People insulted my wife, my children, my friends. Ron remembers this.
Yeah.
Kathleen was treated worse than anyone ought to be treated. Like it crushed her.
See, I think I don't have any understanding of that because I only get to breeze in once a month and just talk about fun things for the most part. And so I don't see that. But I've been here. I remember very well around Mother's Day weeping in here about comments being read about Lauren. And I was actually thinking about those on the way here this morning, thinking like how hard that would be, you know, but I don't see that side of this. And so there's still a part of me where someone, you know, and I get from time to time, oh, you know, you could be a radio star or you could be an influencer. And I'm like, I know. And then I don't.
Because there are fun things about it.
Right.
There are times when that is fun. It's cool.
Right.
It's like fun to be known.
Exactly.
My kids get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I'll go somewhere. In fact, 2 days ago, I was at a training and this woman came up to me and she's like, I know who you are. And I thought it was going to be because maybe she heard me on the radio, because I've gotten used to that, like, because it'll be the most obscure. And she's like, I see your work at the City Mission and I kind of stalk what you do online. Aww. And I was like, okay.
Fun. I bet
Tell
that
me
felt
more.
good. I bet that felt good.
It did. It felt great. She was like, you're killing it in this area. And I'm like, how do you do this? And like wanted my advice. And I'm like, if you only know, I'm just faking it till I make it, lady. But okay, let's have lunch.
That's sweet. Because the fun things too are, like Daria and I were together at the Alive Fest. And there were some of the most wonderful people that stopped by to give genuine, thoughtful feedback that the mission we're trying to accomplish is working. And they're kind people and they love Jesus. So there's wonderful things that come out of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Those mean comments are hard. You do build up a thick skin, but those barbs still hurt sometimes.
Yeah. I remember a lady, and then we'll take a break. I had a lady call and she wrote something horrible. And so I wrote to her, I said, let's have a phone conversation, thinking like talking to me might change her tone a bit. It did not.
It did not.
It did
continued to elaborate on how much she dislikes me and things I was talking about. And I was like, what you're saying is really hurtful. I don't know how you would feel if someone said these things to you. And she goes, well, you're on the radio. It's your job. You have to take stuff like this. It's like, okay. Bye. What? All right. 7:37, time for a quick break. 440-546-2255.
Sometimes it seems like we have everything we need to live the Christian life, except for the power to pull it off. Well, Dr. Tony Evans has some good news for believers with an energy shortage. He'll tell us about it as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
Many times we buy things that tell us that batteries are included, which means that the power to pull off whatever the device is supposed to do is already included in the purchase price of whatever you bought. Sometimes you buy things and they tell you what kind of batteries you need to buy. You need AA or AAA or C or D. You got to go out and get the power for the device to work like it ought to work. Well, I've got good news for everybody today, and that is when it comes to grace, batteries are included. Grace comes with power. You don't have to go outside of grace to get the power you need for grace to work, because grace has a built-in energy supply. You can have the power, and you can have the battery, and still not benefit from it. You don't have to go outside of grace to find power. You don't have to go outside of a brand new car to find power. The battery's already under the hood. I want you and me and us to get a new experience of divine infusion of power due to what grace has to offer.
Find out how vibrant your faith can become when it's based on what God's done for you instead of what you do for God. Get Tony's CD series, The Magnificent Grace of God, available at tonyevans.org. Then join us next time for 2 Minutes with Tony.
Hello, Roland Warren here with your Pro-Abundant Life Minute. A recent study showed that pro-life pregnancy centers provide better services than abortion clinics. Shorter wait times, more same-day appointments, and free pregnancy tests and ultrasounds. Unlike transactional abortion clinics, pregnancy centers, such as the more than 1,200 CareNet-affiliated centers, are focused on transformative ministry and caring for their clients. Despite pro-choice activists' attempts to discredit them, our nation's pregnancy centers are truly the hands and feet of Christ in communities all across this country. For more pro-abundant life insights, visit care-net.org.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. Cleveland from 6 to 9 a.m. Get your coffee in hand. Let's start the day.
Reggae artists love this show, especially if they're artificial intelligence, which is what that was. Isn't that cool? That's AI.
I like that one.
Ron made it.
I love a little AI reggae.
Sure. I mean, it's all the rage. It's Follow-Up Friday, 440-546-2255. We're following up on a variety of topics from this week. You're always welcome to grab the reins and talk about something you want to follow up on or an issue we haven't discussed or you need an opinion or assistance. 440-546-2255. One of the more thought-provoking things we discussed this week was something from the New York Times called A Magic Phrase to Defeat Nosy Questions. And what it is a writer who went into some detail about all the weird comments and rude comments they got because they had one child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, hey, won't your kid be lonely? And what are they going to do when you're gone? They'll be all alone. And what the person said was, when you're genuinely curious about someone, the message is, I want to understand you. But when you ask people questions with an agenda, they're using something called predatory curiosity. And what they're saying is, I want to change you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you my opinion disguised as a question. And so we liked the phrase predatory curiosity, and we chatted about various ways to get out of it. Because I think Christians often feel pressure to not only answer any question they've been asked, but answer it with like a level of transparency that isn't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can just go, I'm not comfortable answering that. Or why do you ask?
You're right. I'm a people pleaser, so I'll answer. So I love listening to how Daria would answer a question like that because I'm like, I could learn some boundaries from that girl.
Oh, me too. No, I totally agree. Lauren and Daria have this boundary thing they can set.
They're
where
good.
I envy it. Like, because people have made so many comments to Sarah and me about having 5 kids.
Oh, please.
They'll be like, 5? Don't you know how that happens? Which they're saying, you had too many children.
I only have 4, but I get the same feedback.
And I, as someone who has nothing to do with your life, don't like that.
But it's weird.
I love that yes, I love it that you feel that way.
No, that's not my opinion.
Well, and you almost want to go, oh, great. Which one should I get rid of? Go ahead. You don't like me that I have 5 kids.
Or,
right.
Yeah. Did you want to take one off my hands? Maybe that's what we should say.
Well, you know what I say.
Which one do you want?
You know what my line is?
What?
They'll be like, 5 kids. Don't you know how that happens? And I go, yeah, she can't keep her hands off me. And then
you just make people awkward. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And which is what the goal was. Well, somebody wrote to us a thoughtful note where they thought actually the entire concept of predatory curiosity is just like weird.
Right.
So here's what they said. I heard part of your conversation this morning about predatory curiosity on my drive to the office. I had to laugh. Speaking as an old guy, I'm amazed at some of the issues you guys come up with. In this particular case, he said, not sure who said what, because I missed part of it, but as for pregnancy issues, when we and our friends were all having babies back in the 80s and 90s, people were pretty open about talking about their personal stuff. When I saw a pregnant woman, it was normal to ask when the baby was due, and which would kick off a conversation. This included talking to random people in public, like standing in line in a store. It was not unusual for expectant moms to tell a total stranger their whole life story. How they had swollen ankles or were retaining water, maybe they had preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, whatever. My wife and I would often remark back then how gals would be so quick to divulge personal details about their pregnant bodies. I'm sure Ron remembers this too.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah. Times change, but...
I'm not going to lie. I remember that. And I'm 43. I remember that. And there's a part of me that is like that. Sorry, I'm jumping in too soon.
No, don't jump in. You're fine.
But I can sometimes be an accidental predator
right.
Just because, like, you know, I feel like in the church there's even more license given that you can ask dumb questions like this, and I fall into it because I am the person who will talk to a complete stranger in the line.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've been the woman who's holding a car seat with a 2-week-old and asked when you're due, you tell me how that feels, because it doesn't feel great when you're holding a baby in a car seat and somebody says, when are you due?
How about you use your eyeballs, is what I'd say.
Sorry.
Well, because it does hurt.
It does hurt. It does hurt. And it hurts when people comment on the size family we have, or like, whoa, why are you buying so much food? How many kids you got? And then they come around the corner and you're like, yeah, there's a lot of them.
But at the end of the day, what this person's bringing up is there's varying perspectives on whose problem this is.
Right.
As in, let me get to the point where he says, seems like we have a choice. People can either stick to themselves and not interact with others at all, or else lighten up. I recommend the latter, as in, if people are going to communicate, it's going to be offensive sometimes. Lighten up, get over it. The other part would be respectful of people and don't ask rude questions, or don't press the boundary so hard.
I was going to say, lighten up on both ends then, right? Like,
right.
You don't have to be so direct, with, I think there's kinder ways, like, so are you thinking about having a family? I did really alienate a couple in our church several years ago who chose they weren't having kids. And I had made a lot of silly comments because they're a beautiful young couple. They're like Ken and Barbie. And when finally, like...
You meant well, by the way.
Yes, totally. They look like Ken and Barbie. They're going to have beautiful little kids. And they're, and at one point, the husband pulled me aside and was like, we're not ever going to have kids. She told me on our first date, this is the choice that we've made. And this is how, it doesn't make us a bad Christian to not want to have kids. And I was like, you're right. I am such a jerk. And so I try to be mindful, but I, like this comment, can be someone who just wants to make small talk and make everyone feel comfortable. So I do insert my foot in my mouth. So we have to just lighten up on both ends, I think. I wouldn't be... I say I like that Lauren and Daria have boundaries, but I'm sure there's been times when they have pushed me back with a boundary, and that's I need to learn from that too.
I'm anxious to hear in just a minute what Lauren and Daria think of this, because it's a more modern phenomenon, Ron, from younger generations to have more firm lines on, don't joke around with me about my body or my family or my decisions. It's not a funny joke. Where us older folks might be more, hey, when are you having kids? We're being nice.
Exactly. We're trying to be nice. And because we have so many, it's like, come on, join the club. It's great.
Yeah, we're having fun here.
Most of the time.
But maybe not. 748. We'll get to some more talk about that. 440-546-2255. This is WCRF. We'll be back in a minute.
Prayer works. The late Bible teacher and author, Dr. Warren Wiersbe.
The spiritually minded believer will reveal his spirituality by the way he responds to a brother who falls. Father, we get self-centered, critical, judgmental. We forget that we've been called to be witnesses, and we start acting like prosecuting attorneys. Forgive us. And help us to minister to one another in the marvelous ministry of restoration. Oh, even today, Father, help us to set some broken bones, to equip some soldiers, to outfit some ships, to mend some nets, to the strengthening of your work. For Jesus' sake, amen.
Why does prayer matter? Learn more at moodyradio.org/prayer.
Counseling. It's what God created you to do. When you earn your Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from Moody Bible Institute, you'll be equipped to help others become who God created them to be. Study at Moody's Chicago or Michigan campus, where you can secure certificates in the areas of marriage, family, and couples counseling, as well as trauma-informed counseling. Learn more and get started on your counseling career today. Go to moody.edu/counseling.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
749. We got some amusement this week earlier from the phrase predatory curiosity. Like those people who are asking you questions, not because they genuinely want to know you better, but because they really kind of want to give you their opinion.
That's right.
Oh, you're pregnant again, huh? Oh, I see. Don't you know how that happens?
I hate that comment so much.
Yeah. Or people that just are really personable. They're trying to be nice. And you mentioned you're holding a 2-week-old and someone goes, when do you do?
Yeah.
And you want to slap them.
Well, yeah.
Because they don't mean to be rude. They're trying to be nice and thoughtful, but they're being thoughtless and rude. But they're not being, I don't think, what person would go to a woman who just gave birth and try to offend her? Unless they're a sociopath.
Right.
So it's silliness. It's probably a bad idea. Well, it is a bad idea. But nonetheless, somebody wrote to us essentially saying, the problem isn't predatory curiosity. The problem is lighten up. Like, the only way to communicate is to get offended sometimes.
Right.
Just lighten up a little bit.
Because not everybody who asks you a question is trying to subtly insert their opinion into your life, which is what the predatory is. Some are just nice, friendly people, and that's normal from the way they grew up.
And what I gathered from this person who wrote to us as well is they were kind of like, and even if they are trying to give you their opinion, lighten up. Who cares? Don't listen to them. Let's just move on. So this is a more recent phenomena, of course. Ron, you agree with him that didn't used to be the way it is today with predatory curiosity and such.
Right.
So I'm curious what our younger people think of this, Lauren and Daria.
There are just some things that are really uncomfortable questions. And in my experience, they often come from people I don't know well, or it's literally not your business. You're asking questions I don't discuss with like very close friends or family members. And we're not talking about like you see a pregnant woman like, oh, when are you due? Like most people are not going to have an issue with that. We're talking more about like why don't you have kids? When are you having kids? Because the presupposition there is there's something wrong with you because you don't have kids. And the reason these are not appropriate questions is because you don't know what someone's going through.
Right.
They could be struggling with infertility. They could have had a miscarriage. These are very deeply hurtful, potentially questions. Just don't ask. It's none of your business.
So you feel like it's better that we have some more clear boundaries to say, no, there are questions that just shouldn't be asked.
Right. And I don't necessarily assume you mean the worst by asking these questions, but don't get mad at me for saying I'm not going to answer that because it's not your business.
Yeah, and I guess this ties somewhat to Sarah and I have been through marriage counseling, and one of my flaws I really had to work on was I thought if I didn't mean to hurt her. Lauren started laughing right away. Well, that's not what I meant.
But it was still hurtful.
It took me, I don't know why, it took me so long to figure out it really doesn't matter what I meant.
Intention versus impact.
Yes.
Your intention wasn't to hurt her, but the impact did hurt her.
So what we need to be more concerned about is the impact. Mm-hmm. And if you've been married, you understand this is true.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a healthy relationship, you have to understand it doesn't matter what you meant. It matters how it was received. I think that's reasonable to extend that into all interpersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. Which is why, just as a rule, unless you're on your way to the hospital, I'm not going to ask you when you're due.
My rule is unless I see you rub your belly like in a lovingly way, I don't ask you if you're pregnant. But if I see you like, I can't say it on the radio. I can't explain it on the radio. But unless you're like rubbing your belly and very, very pregnant, I don't ask you.
I mean, I act surprised. Someone's like, oh, I'm pregnant. You are?
I think that's a little much because if they've got the swollen ankles and the wide cheeks and they're like wobbling into the room, you don't have to. The shock may be offensive.
Unless I hit you in the head with my belly trying to get into my chair, don't ask.
That's essentially my theory as well because it's so hurtful to ask that question to someone.
I have been asked that when I was not pregnant.
Oh, no.
Well,
Lauren.
That makes me sad. I'm a chubby girl. That happens. It happens.
It shouldn't happen. Because again, as Daria indicated, like you having a life growing inside of you seems to be inherently your business.
Yeah, it's literally inside of my body.
Yes.
Yes. Or in my instance, it wasn't, and someone still has.
So, but to what extent can Lauren and Daria say, okay, maybe younger people could lighten up a little bit? We can all be offended now and again and move on.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, like, offense is just part of life. I'm a pretty unoffendable person, but I have my boundaries. I don't think young people do need to lighten up. If you're really upset that someone's asking when your due date is, even if you don't want to share it, like that's a you problem. But when it comes to like the deep personal questions about, your plans for the, your future family or not, just don't ask. And I do think those are offensive questions, especially because there are certain things that people are going through that you may not be aware of.
And so it's not that you have a problem with questions about your personal life. It's the ones like, boy, you're still single, huh?
Right.
Why is that?
Oh yeah,
Right.
no, I've got a good friend of mine desperately wants to be married. She has never been on a date, and she's my age, and it hurts her. And people like say, well, like, what's wrong with you? Or like, you just need a man. Like, but like, try this. It's like, no, back off.
Be nicer or lighten up or whatever, and maybe we'll get a man. No, don't say that.
Lisa Anderson, who works with Focus on the Family, her mother would give her advice like that. She'd say, try on this date to have fewer opinions.
Oh, no.
So, Ron, what do we learn from this?
Everyone needs to lighten up.
Everyone?
Yes, everyone.
Everybody.
I agree with you, Ron, because I feel like, sorry, I don't know why this is a hot button for me today, but I'm a little feisty. I'm seeing a couple of the comments and I'm hearing, and I just feel like we can be slower to get offended, but we can also be slower to be offensive. Like, it's both sides of the stick here.
Yeah, in the immortal words of Sergeant Hulka from the movie Stripes,
What?
Lighten up, Francis.
Yeah, and I found in my life the people that I want to tell to lighten up are the people I've probably hurt, and the people that I love to joke around. It's one of my favorites. But I also like to destroy boundaries with my humor. And I've had to work really hard to learn better how to do that. Honestly. Like, I think I'm being funny, but what I'm actually doing is being annoying. And Sarah had to look at me once. I remember exactly where we were on this and what street we were on. And the moment it happened, she goes, when you do jokes like that, it hurts my feelings. Have you not figured this out yet? Oh, right. And so in that case, I think that's how you coach the other end to lighten up. You don't get permission because you mean well and think you're funny to ask or make whatever comment you want. If that was how it worked back in the olden days weren't as great as you thought they were, because that's rude is what that is.
Yeah, I think it's okay to say, to show that like that hurts my feelings or I don't like you talking about that. Because when we were talking about this off air the other day, it was, yeah, man, people probably went home and cried about it. Or told their husband or wife about how much that hurt their feelings that someone asked them if they were pregnant and they weren't. Or asked, when are you going to have kids? And they've had 4 miscarriages in the last year that you didn't know about. So I think it's okay for people to say, hey, that actually kind of hurts my feelings when you say that, or I don't really want to talk about that, to protect me from feeling more hurt.
Yeah, because
I think it goes both ways. I think we're just more comfortable saying, oh, I don't really like talking about that, instead of just going home to cry about it.
Great point. Yeah, I remember us talking about that off the air, because I'm pretty sure boomers can have hurt feelings, right, Ron?
I've heard some can. I don't have feelings to start with, so how do they get hurt?
That's not
Ron.
true. Ron Eastwood. Yeah. All right. Well, it is Follow-Up Friday. It's just about time for us to get to Ron's news and today's Moron Moment, but we still have an hour of Follow-Up Friday. What do you want to talk about? Maybe you want to keep this one rolling as we talk about healthy boundaries and relationships and predatory curiosity, whether it's silliness or seriousness. 440-546-2255. 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Trump campaign says it is not ready to commit to a debate with Vice President Harris. It's 7:59. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Trump Communications Director Stephen Chung said in a statement Thursday that the campaign would not agree until Democrats formally decide on their nominee. The announcement comes as Harris told reporters she has agreed to debate Trump at the pre-scheduled presidential debate on September 10th with ABC. A member of President Biden's administration was in Cleveland yesterday to meet with union leaders. Made in America director Livia Schmavonian participated in a closed-door roundtable discussion with members of the North Shore AFL-CIO Federation of Labor. And a Portage County woman is facing charges after she allegedly threatened her neighbor and fired shots as the man was trying to hunt. The incident happened in Atwater Township, where a man who was hunting on his own property says Luann Headley used a megaphone to yell that she would be a hunter's nightmare and then fired shots in his direction. Headley has pleaded not guilty to charges of aggravated menacing and prevention of hunting by creating noise. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Need a good book to read this summer? Download the free ebook by Alistair Begg titled The Hand of God today. In this book, Alistair explores the depth of God's providence by looking at the epic drama in Joseph's life in the book of Genesis. You'll discover the remarkable truth that God orchestrates the affairs of our lives, both big and small. Download the Hand of God free ebook today at moodyradio.org/handofgod.
In sports, the Guardians were blanked by the Tigers 3-0. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Patchy fog this morning, giving way to sunny skies with highs around 80 degrees. And at last check, we had clear skies all across our listening area. 57 degrees in Cleveland, 59 Akron and Canton, Mansfield up to 60 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Over 10,000 athletes will sail down the Seine River today in what is poised to be the most ambitious Olympic opening ceremony ever attempted. To commemorate the official start of the Olympics, which were last held in Paris exactly a century ago, organizers have spent years orchestrating a dynamic and distinctly French affair. The live NBC coverage kicks off with a pre-show at noon Eastern Time, and the ceremony itself begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you can find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm
One of Eastwood.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
This is Moody Radio Cleveland. You're listening to Mornings with Brian. Jaime Buxton from City Mission with us.
Hello, hello.
Oh, whoa. She kind of harmonized.
Jamie in stereo.
It was so fun. And we're chatting about a number of different things, but for the follow-up Friday, really digging into something I think that is worth talking about, because as followers of Christ, certainly we're supposed to turn the other cheek. We're supposed to, we overlook wrong, and we love people. We even love our enemy, right? Mm-hmm. But there was an article from New York Times that talked about something called predatory curiosity, which is essentially the person who's asking you a rude question where really what they're doing is sharing their opinion with you. Not a genuine, like, hey, you've been married for 10 years. I'm your good friend. You don't have children. Can you tell me more about that? Are you going through difficulty? Like, it's a very personal question. Mm-hmm. Or someone going, you don't have kids yet? What's the problem? Or, oh, look at you. You're pregnant. No, I'm not. Oh, it's so offensive, right? So whose fault is it, essentially? Is this a situation where young people today get fired up about this, need to lighten up, as somebody wrote to us?
Yeah, I think the problem that the thing we're missing here is this is not friends talking to friends. This is a lot of times strangers or nearly strangers or someone you've just met.
Acquaintances, maybe.
Saying these things. Someone that's a colleague that you're not like close with.
Right.
It's like a colleague you pass by in the hallway twice a week or whatever, and you know their name, and you know what they do for work.
And you're not against, comments, questions.
No,
I mean, I'll look at you or Daria and go, oh, is that a new blouse you got? It looks nice.
Yeah, totally.
And you're not.
None of your business. Go away.
Yeah, that's not how you respond.
Quit looking at my chest.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's people you don't know super well asking these questions about your personal life. Someone texted in and said, could the word offensive be exchanged for private? Some information just doesn't need to be shared.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I would say personal or private information. That's like not just like information that needs to be shared with everyone.
Like your reproductive system and your decisions about offspring with your husband are generally private.
If a woman is pregnant, she will tell you.
If she wants you to know.
Yes. Yes. And even if it is so blatantly obvious that she's pregnant, maybe she doesn't want to talk about it that day.
There are also certain medical conditions that kind of look like pregnancy, so she might not be pregnant.
Yeah, so, okay, number one, coming from me, I have been asked if I was pregnant and I was not. Okay, I have had that experience myself. It is not a nice experience. It is not a fun experience. As if being in this world in bodies is hard enough, then you have someone commenting on it. Mm-hmm. I'm hard enough on myself about what I look like. I don't need somebody else ask me if I'm pregnant and I am not.
Well, and someone texted us about that very issue,
yes.
Right? Do you know where that one is? Yeah.
Since the topic of congratulating or asking about a woman's pregnancy has always been a thing, what has changed? There was a time when you were met with smiles or, well, no, I'm not. My baby is 2 months old. Where and why has everything changed? Should we just not speak?
Nothing has changed. If that was me, I might have smiled and said, haha, no. And I went home and sobbed about it and thought about it and still think about it today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, no, nothing's changed. We're just saying that it's okay to respond and say, actually, that was a painful question. I'm not. And and if you're the person asking the question, if the person on the other end receiving that question needs to lighten up, you, when you're met with someone's boundaries, also needs to lighten up and say, oh, maybe that wasn't appropriate.
And I think that is what's changed. For whatever reason, we are now more comfortable laying out boundaries and just very politely saying I don't want to talk about that, or that's really personal. That's not your business. And I don't understand why people get so upset about that. I'm telling you so that you, one, know that you've hurt me. I know you probably didn't mean to, but I need you to know that this hurts so that you don't repeat this with me or somebody else in the future.
Yeah, that's these are damaging things to say. Like Jamie said, I probably still thought about it today. I do still think about that comment today, and that was before I've had 3 pregnancies since then.
Lauren.
It was before any of my actual pregnancies.
I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. And I still think about it. And my body is much different than it was before I had any other children.
Yes.
And I still think about it. Because it's hurtful, And it's okay for someone to say, hey, that's a hurtful question, or that's private information, or, maybe we just don't ask people about their bodies like that.
So can we maybe get to the root of why certain people are so upset about like very like polite and, in my opinion, reasonable boundaries? Is this because it is just me spitballing? You don't want to be confronted with the fact that you've hurt somebody because you're embarrassed?
Mm-hmm. For me, yes. And that's why I say I'm learning from you ladies so much, because I am a person who will ask a question and be met with, it has not happened with Daria, but with someone, that says, oh, that was painful. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I will then go home and dwell on that. Like, why did I say such a stupid thing? And I will replay that conversation. It is okay to learn that we've hurt someone and be like, and do better.
And we don't want you to dwell on it because we know you didn't mean anything by it, but that is an appropriate response, instead of like, oh, these young people, why are they so offendable? It's like, these things have always hurt. We were just, for whatever reason, now in a position where we feel like we can just very gently say, that's hurtful. And I don't know why it's so hurtful to say, you hurt my feelings.
Because I will admit, I won't say you hurt my feelings, but I will go home and cry about it. So that's why I'm like, I want to learn and be more like these ladies. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm an old lady. So
no,
you're so young. Well, this person seemed to believe that in the olden days.
The olden days.
You could say that to a pregnant woman, a woman who's not pregnant. Oh, what do you do? I'm actually not pregnant at all. And that woman would not be hurt.
Yeah.
That's what the presumption is.
No, they were.
They definitely were.
And I'm not sure this person means that at all.
What do they mean?
I'm kind of afraid we're painting a picture that's not accurate to what they said.
Give it to us, Ron. I want to know.
My impression reading their email was more of just general topics and discussions. And we've kind of narrowed it down to, wow, you look pregnant. I'm not pregnant. Oh, no, I'm offended that you told me you're not pregnant. And it's kind of more like, just the casual, hi, how you doing? I'm waiting in line. I'm not going to ignore you. I'm not going to look at my phone because it's 1980 and we don't have phones. I'm going to chat with you instead and make small talk. And one of the areas might be if she looks like she's pregnant, and you would know because she might be one arm cradling her belly, things like that, then you would ask, oh, when are you due? I think we're kind of villainizing this person's email, and I don't think it's quite that way that he intended. And I don't think people necessarily get offended if you set up boundaries. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. If that happens to me, and it's happened before, I wouldn't be angry that you have boundaries. I'd just be like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to make small talk.
Yeah, and in fairness to what you're saying too, Ron, I'm trying to find it now, but this individual did say, like, now it's as if I ask any questions, I'm a creepy old man as opposed to just a friendly person.
Right. Because it does feel that way sometimes. People are annoyed, and it's not necessarily all these young whippersnappers. Sometimes it's the old people too who are obsessed with their phone or whatever. They don't want to talk. And if you're a small talk maker, you struggle in this world where people just want to be left alone and do their business and get out of the store as fast as they can.
Yeah, like this person even said it used to be you could walk down the street and look at someone and go, hey, how you doing? Mm-hmm. And they'd go, great, a stranger. And now people are like, ugh, what's wrong with that person?
Yeah.
Don't talk to me.
I am a small talk maker, but you just read people. Some will look at you, some don't, and then you just don't linger. But,
Yeah, if people think you're creepy just for saying hi, like that's a them problem. That's a completely separate issue.
So any processing live off the top of your head of some of the things Ron was sharing, ladies?
I think that person didn't hear the entirety of our conversation, which they
said that.
They did say to me in a later email. It's not about asking when someone's due when they're obviously pregnant. It's about asking people personal information if you don't know them. I don't think that we should be asking strangers personal information about their bodies or their family lives. Like,
or their mental health, their dietary like many things.
So you would agree that it is rude to think someone's creepy just for saying hello?
yes, absolutely.
And so you're drawing a much more narrow boundary than perhaps we've been clear about. You're saying if it's a personal, private thing, let's just not chat about it.
Yeah, I think you can still say hello to someone and talk to them and have small talk. And if they are so blatantly, obviously pregnant, you can ask when they're due. That's fine. I'm talking about asking people if they're pregnant or congratulating them that they are pregnant when you don't know, or saying, when are you going to have kids? And you don't know them all that well because you don't know what they've been through. There is a vast majority of people in my life that don't know that I had a miscarriage. And if they were to come to me after I had had that, and they're like, when are you going to have your second? That would be extremely hurtful to me because it's like, well, I'm trying to, and I can't. And so I think that there is a line of talking about personal, private information that we don't have to ask. There's plenty of other things to ask other than about someone's body and if they're having children or not.
Well, and I wonder if even just the experience of history has changed things where I don't know that women had a voice in like the 70s and 80s, for example, to draw a line like that.
Maybe not.
Like if someone made a comment about your body, you're just supposed to take it. Maybe?
I'm not sure about that.
I'm throwing it out there. I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to believe, but my mother really didn't have many options for careers. Women were going to be teachers, nurses, or secretaries, or social workers. And she went for social work. I mean, a lot has changed in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that is true.
But to Ron's point, though, I think there's a lot more agreement than we realize here, as in maybe a younger generation takes it way too far, and you won't even have small talk with a stranger because it's a creepy old person. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's wrong, and that's not. I think we're sort of having two separate conversations.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't hate me for my crepe skin.
I have that too. 440-546-2255. We'll continue here on Follow Up Friday on WCRF in just a minute.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Pastors have to make tons of decisions, including what to do to meet healthcare needs for themselves and their staff. Christian Healthcare Ministries specializes in making healthcare decisions easy and affordable. Not insurance, but a health cost sharing ministry for over 40 years. CHM opens the door for individuals, families, and yes, pastors to be a part of a biblical way to meet medical bills. Get more information and answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
Sometimes I just feel lost in the Bible.
Fly Through the Bible by Colin Smith can change that. Imagine soaring above Scripture, taking in the big picture. This book uses clear, insightful explanations to guide you through key stories, characters, and themes. Discover how it all connects and deepen your understanding of God's Word. Fly Through the Bible, an amazing journey for anyone seeking a richer Bible experience. Get your copy now from moodybooks.org.
Get up, get ready, and get going. It's Mornings with Brian on
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
They were just at a live fest. That was Skillet on WCRF. I always get hungry when I hear that band name, though. It's like the special kind of meal at.
I am like pretty hungry right now.
I am too.
It's almost lunchtime for us.
Maybe we should go out to lunch or breakfast after this.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Are you available, Jamie? Watch her say no.
Oh, my boys are home alone, so.
They're hoping you do, because then they can cause more trouble.
I'm not even sure they're awake yet.
We've got to the point where a bag of chips will last exactly like 4 hours.
Oh, well, that won't last that long in my house.
No.
Like, and it only does because there's so much fighting. Like, you can't have the whole thing.
Okay.
So
Well,
somebody
we
will have
do
3/4 of it in one sitting.
You know, we have the big Sam's Club mini bags of like 40 bags of chips, and I will find them like hidden places. I mean, not just, we've had that talk before, how my son throws his trash behind the couch
Not
and
just
all
your
kinds
son.
of places.
My children as well.
I love that.
But like, there's like actual hiding of the food. And I'm like, you know, I know what the garbage can is full of in your room. Like, it's just funny to me.
Oh,
I'm like, quit hiding food.
we just had an explosion over pistachios in my house.
Oh, wow.
Well, at least there's a healthy snack.
They're delicious. They're a little pricey. So I went to the store. We hadn't had them in a while, and I bought a bag of pistachios, and I put them in the cabinet. And my kids tend to only like see what's right in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been behind something. One of them discovers a few days after grocery shopping that their brother has grabbed a bag of pistachios to go to his room. And everyone lost their minds. What do? You can't take that to your room. You're going to eat all of it, aren't you? I didn't get any. I didn't know we had any. Why didn't you tell me we bought any? Ah! And so what we ended up doing was buying like 3 giant bags of pistachios just so they'd stop it.
And now they won't eat them.
Now they won't eat them.
Yep.
No one's
Listen.
having pistachios anymore.
I cried over an iced coffee on Monday.
What happened?
Because I was just
you needed it.
I was away with the boys, just me. And shout out to single moms, you're amazing. I'm apparently not cut out for it, but it was Cedar Point baseball and momming on my own, and all I wanted was my iced coffee. And I got distracted at the game cheering for my son.
Oh no.
And I took a phone call. And I was a little stressed, and I'm a little overtired, and I was a little on the verge, and only to come over and pick up my cup to find out that the iced coffee was gone. And I had to go sit up in the stands. I sat next to this big motorcycle-y dad. I love you, Tony. And I was like, keep my kids away from me. They drank my iced coffee, and I'm going to cry about it, Tony. And he was like, you're safe here. And my usher came up, and I put my hand right up, and I said, 30 minutes. And this big Tony, he was like, 30 minutes, kid. You drank my coffee. And I was like, thank you, Tony.
God bless Tony.
That's a great story.
Go run around somewhere else. Not me.
Oh, man.
I really did. I cried just a little bit, but I was like,
I totally
I really
get that.
wanted that coffee, and they drank it. And
You hit a wall. I had that happen a couple of days ago. You're making it. You're surviving, and there's one tiny little thing, and it doesn't happen. It's over.
Yes.
I forget what it was, but like a couple months ago, Jimmy ate the last of, I think it was the cereal. And I was like craving a bowl of cereal, and he ate the last of cereal and did not tell me. And I got so mad at him. I had to apologize. I'm like, it's not about the cereal. I'm sorry. It's not about the
But it was a little bit about the cereal.
It happens to you.
Oh, like once a week. Oh, yeah. I'm on the verge constantly.
Yeah.
All right, 440-546-2255. It's Follow-Up Friday. We had somebody send in an anonymous issue.
Yes.
Which is your favorite. You're and Jamie's favorite, Lauren.
Yes. Their eldest daughter is 38, married, a wonderful mom, and has 3 little girls. For whatever reason, she's very hard on me. I know I'm not the mom that she wants me to be, even though I'm there all the time, and I do anything I can for her and the kids. Her stepdad, who she loves, and my ex-husband, we're all still very good friends, has cancer, and it's spreading, and she recently told me that I was treating his illness like gossip. I don't believe I am, and I'm very upset by the whole thing. I've had a hard time at work all week, and just in life in general, finding out this news, of course. I told him I'll be there for him if he wants any special meals for me, whatever. I just want to make this journey easy for him as possible. She has another daughter who is easier to get along with. Her older daughter just feels like she is looking for things to criticize me on, and never just lets things be who I am. I feel like I do my best and everything, and I'm just a sinner saved by grace. We've gone to counseling, but we can't do counseling right now. So what's the advice for relationship with her oldest daughter, who seems to be a little bit hard on her?
Look at us. We got 3 daughters here.
Yes.
And I'm really sorry that this happened.
Mm.
That's tough, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think my first thought is expectations. What is her expectation of how you would react to something? And maybe her expectations are a little bit out of line, or their expectations of how she would react to something and you're not reacting the way she wants you to. And that's not fair for her to have that. I also think that sometimes there's just relationships, especially in families, that you just kind of like grind each other. Like whatever it is about your personalities just don't mesh very well. And it's not necessarily something that you're doing wrong or that she's doing wrong. It's just you both don't like mesh very well for some reason. And those relationships take a lot of work.
Yeah, I think because genetics are weird, sometimes you, like Lauren was saying, you get someone that you have a harder time relating to. You still love them, but that relationship is going to take more work.
Yeah.
I think pursue the counseling if and when you can. But I mean, I don't know what else beyond that.
But wouldn't it be okay to say as well that maybe they're just not going to be that close?
Yeah.
Just because they're your kid, that doesn't mean you have to be best friends.
I mean, that might be the reality of the situation, but that's still really hard.
That's a hard pill to swallow, that you're not going to be close with your kids.
Yeah.
And yet, I mean, the reality of human interpersonal relationships is that you're close with some people and not as much with others, right? And why wouldn't that be different in a family?
I think that's true, but that is really hard to acknowledge and understand. Do you want to think that all the relationships in your family are equal and each have the same value?
Yeah.
Especially with your kids.
Yeah.
Well, I think parents feel that pressure, right? Is I have to be close with all of my kids.
Right.
But I don't, what do you think of that, Ron?
I think there's the ideal that, you start off with this new child and he's going to be the president and then be an astronaut and then, the first man on Mars and then come home and raise a family. And you've got great expectations. The same with your idealization of how your relationship is going to be. You think we're going to be, good friends when we're adults and we'll have that kind of relationship. The first doesn't work out like you idealized, and you come to realize these kids are going to do what they're going to do, and you're going to do your best to help them along the way. If your relationship doesn't work out, do the best you can, but don't fret over it because maybe it's not. I mean, do some self-inspection and see if there's something that you're doing wrong. Ask your spouse, especially, they'll be the ones who would know the most. Am I flipping their trigger somehow? And if you both agree that it's not you, then, just continue to be nice, but don't force it because that only makes it worse.
And do you think that, so the daughter doesn't think that the daughter thinks that the mom has made the stepdad, ex-husband's cancer gossip. How does she respond to that with her daughter? Does she address it at all? Does she just kind of have to let it go?
Why do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's seeing something you're not. Could be she's wrong. But I think you need to press that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think for so many years, for especially Christians of her generation, Proverbs was taught as a promise. If you train up your child in the way they should go, they won't depart from it. And it wasn't just a faith issue, it was a character issue. Like, if you just do it right, your kid's going to turn out perfect.
Right.
You could have done everything right, and your daughter might just not be a very nice person.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not your fault. And you know what I do with people who aren't super nice? I just don't spend as much time with them. And I know it sounds easy to say because it's not my kid, but I think she needs to release herself of any guilt that their relationship isn't going well, and it might not have anything to do with mom.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It might have everything to do with a daughter who's just not a nice person. And so you do your best to love them, but thank the Lord for the close relationship with the other kid and pray for guidance with the one that doesn't like you very much. Is that too callous? Maybe that's a dad thing to say.
It is probably more dad than mom.
I mean, I would be very
harsh.
hurt.
It feels a little harsh to me, but I don't know. I don't know how to make it softer.
Because it could be true. This is the thing. It's like we can all do some self-examination, but I've met people, and we all have, who are just not nice people. And just because they're your offspring doesn't mean you have to be their best friend.
I think it's a dad thing to say, but I think also there's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I'm not a mom of girls, but I am a daughter. And, that daughters grow up to be your best friend, right? Like that's what you hear.
Yeah, people say that.
Yeah. And I think, I can hear this mom aching for that, right? And so I hear you and I don't disagree, but also like I can't imagine yearning for this relationship with my daughter and then it not being reciprocated. I'm sure it's very painful. Yeah. That's all I got.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break then, and we'll come back with a few more minutes to follow up Friday. There's still more time for you. 440-546-2255.
God has a way of welding our souls to specific Bible verses. And those verses can guide us and shape us for a lifetime. If I could do it all over again, Christian leaders share the most important lessons of their lives. Author and conference speaker Jill Briscoe has been walking with Jesus for a long time and can easily point to a Bible passage that shapes her thinking these days.
Psalm 71, 16 to 18. Even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, O Lord, until I have declared your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come.
And why are these verses so special to Jill?
Because they were written, they think, by David in his middle age, looking back on God's faithfulness, looking around at his challenges as a middle-aged man, and looking forward. And he asked God for more years. He said, when I'm old and gray, give me more years, Lord. When I'm old and gray, I want to have those years to declare your faithfulness to the next generation. I think that's where I am now. I am old and gray. I could live another 10 years. Who knows? So the next generation is my heart. Gift doesn't age. Spiritual gift doesn't age. And my spiritual gift is kids. It's college kids. And I'm amazingly still on college campuses and working with those kids because that's my spiritual gift. And I want to use it for that generation. I have this heartbeat. I'm concerned about the millennials, and I know God has gifted me to be able to connect. And so I have, in times, asked for more years to be able to do that.
This has been a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute based on the book, If I Could Do It All Over Again.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to healthcare, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
It's 8:38, and we'd encourage you to pick up some school supplies and make sure the kids at Laura's home have the school supplies they need. And it's a Women and Children's Crisis Center as a ministry of the City Mission.
Yep.
Which, looky here, Jaime Buxton from City Mission's with us all morning.
Looky, here she is.
And we're doing a big fundraiser for this.
I'm so excited. You're going to come spend the morning with me at Laura's home on the 6th, and we're going to fill a van full of school supplies. And these are going to kids who are living in our crisis center. Their moms are growing and learning and hopefully meeting Jesus, growing closer to Christ. And we want to minister to their families by supplying what they need to go back to school. We make a really big deal about it. We're having a big back to school bash and make it a really fun celebration. So please help us.
For more information, text the word scripture. No, not that. Supplies.
I was looking
It's
at
not even
what?
close.
I was like, I should have done
You
it.
have to understand, my name is, or my mind is going 100 different directions. I was looking at a word here on this article we're about to talk about. It says scripture. I have an excuse.
Text the word supplies to
Supplies.
440-546-2255.
Lauren.
You should do the reads from now on, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Text supplies. And you can ship the Amazon packages of school supplies here as well.
Yeah.
I messed that up. I'm sorry.
As an added
Text
bonus, you
scripture.
can assign yourself to either Team Scott or Team Roy and show your support for one of our two guests who are strumming up support themselves.
I love a good competition.
I know you do.
I'm so competitive. Can we just play all games that morning?
Well, I don't know if I want to do that to you, though, Jamie.
Are there babies I can hold?
Well, it's a little early in the morning, but I'm sure I can arrange that.
You did that last year.
In fact, shout
I didn't
out
hold
to
anyone's
Katie.
baby. Oh, yeah, I did.
You did.
Who's listening, I'm sure. It's
Hi,
her first
Katie.
day back from maternity leave, going back to Pathways to minister to our kids at Laura's home. So we love you, Katie, and hope your day is already starting
You're doing great, sweetie. It's okay.
I know.
I'd suggest we play games, but I usually win, and I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Oh, please.
We've only played 2. You won 1. I won 1.
The one that you won, you had Linda Vegas call in, and it was rigged out of the
It
gate.
was awesome.
It was rigged. She asked questions I could never answer, and you knew it. It was rigged.
I know. What's wrong with that?
Okay, so one of the other pieces I wanted to follow up on was something a little spicy from Christian Post, and it was some statistics that were pretty interesting to me. So here we go. It was a American Bible Society study, and what they looked at was scripture-engaged respondents. They had a bunch of different factors that would indicate whether or not you're scripture engaged. And what does that mean? I mean, just guess, somebody who's reading their Bible a lot, going to church all the time, blah, blah, blah. So here's the two we compared. 42% of scripture engaged Americans think that submitting to government leaders is important. Okay. Super important. Here's another one for you. 48% of scripture engaged respondents believe that advocating for civic and government policies was important or very important. So like civic engagement, 48% of scripture engaged thought it was very important. Meanwhile, a majority, 53% of scripture engaged agree strongly or very strongly with the need to advocate for the oppressed. And I'm trying to remember here because now it's sounding backwards to me. Something about earlier this week is we found that you had more people worried about civic engagement than you did about caring for the oppressed.
What was the stat for caring for the oppressed?
The majority, 53% of scripture engaged. Oh, it's strongly or very. You put those two together, it's 53%.
And for civic engagement, it was 46? Is that what you said?
48.
48.
48% of scripture engaged respondents believe that advocating for civic and government policies was either important or very important. So that's good.
Yeah, I think we were saying it needs to not be close to the same.
That must have been what it was.
Yeah.
I'm finding myself
Well, yeah, I
wondering
think
about that.
53%, that's half, only think it's important to advocate for the oppressed.
Right.
That's what it was. Boy.
Glad I could shine a light
I was
there
all
for you.
thrown off.
That's why we have Jamie here.
That's why we have Jamie here. Yeah. Because that one is so explicitly given in Scripture.
Right.
To care for the oppressed. And that's what you do professionally.
That is what I do.
That's your vocation.
It is. And it is my joy to advocate and destigmatize homelessness.
So you're frustrated by only 53%.
I am. But I wouldn't have a job, I guess, if everybody did it. I would love to be out of a job, but that would mean that we wouldn't be struggling with, there wouldn't be people struggling with homelessness and people would understand. But it seems like a pretty low number of scripture engaged. So we're talking about not just, sort of Christians. We're talking about strong in the word believers, and only 53% think it's important to advocate. For me, advocate seems, I guess your definition varies on that. You know, like not everyone has to do what I do, like go out and talk and teach and you know, learn and have lots of wisdom about subjects of oppression. However, we should all want to be engaged in fighting against oppression of people.
Yeah, we all have our God-given pet passions, as I like to call them. But I do think we should all have one, that we are, you know, wanting to see the world better because we want to show the love of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I did figure out one of my problems here.
There's so many.
One of them? Just one.
Lauren's enjoying this. She should. So here's another statistic for you. When asked if they viewed maintaining awareness of civic and government issues as either important or very important, 54% of respondents overall answered yes. But among the scripture-engaged respondents, 66% said yes. So scripture-engaged Americans, 66% of them think maintaining awareness of government issues is very important. Only 53% think caring for the oppressed would be the same. That's the statistic we looked at.
Okay.
It's a subtle difference, but that was it.
So they're scripture engaged. 60-something% of them say be civically engaged. And 50-something% of them say care for the oppressed.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Could this be because there's like a certain type of person that is more likely to just want to like know more and be involved and be like informed and that kind of thing? And those two can kind of go hand in hand.
Could be.
I also do think that there are some people that they think the only way to care for the oppressed is to be civically engaged.
What do you mean by that?
Like by changing policies. Or like in Chicago, be a community organizer and do the work civically to make the government care for those people.
And I think both sides of the aisle are like that.
There's space for that.
There is space for it. Mm-hmm. I think it works well sometimes. Here's a couple of comments we got from you throughout the week. One person said, is it because the way we've been told the government will take care of everyone? This isn't why the church should back out. As in like, during the Great Depression, things shifted pretty dramatically. And one of the ways we came out of that was through the New Deal and a bunch of social programs.
Right.
Social Security was created at that moment. And so the government suddenly took over what the church had done for hundreds and if not thousands of years. And maybe we're just used to government doing it now. That's why people care about government more than the oppressed.
Could be.
And it's easier. It's easier to say, you do something about the problem rather than actually roll up your sleeves and get involved yourself.
Excellent point.
That's a really good point. Someone else wrote, you're all missing that our politics and our political culture are leaning today more towards socialism. And a lot of people feel that it's the government's responsibility to care for the oppressed. And I agree it's not, but this is what Christians are thinking now.
I don't know that they think it's the government's job. I think they just think it's someone else's job. Like we've heard from pastors, a big complaint they have is like someone will come to them and say, oh, someone should do something, meaning like you, pastor, you should do this. But like Ron was saying, we need to take ownership for the things that we're seeing in our community.
Yeah, I mean, we've had times where we talk about, for example, there's certain rates of homelessness going on. And so somebody's advocating for more social programs, right? Mm-hmm. This hits close to home for you, right?
Yep.
And Christians will go, well, we don't raise taxes. The church should be doing that, not the government.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. So then what?
Yeah, they'll say the church should be doing it. They're a member of the church. They could start doing something, even if they mean their particular congregation, but they don't. They just say that it's a way to push it off and say, not me.
Yeah, and so then they would rather have someone live on the street because their principle is that therefore maintained, rather than, well, if the church isn't fully doing what it could do, I'd rather not have someone die on the street, so maybe we could advocate for different social policies as well. Because I don't think principles should hurt people in the long run. Anyway, 8:48, time for a quick break. Still a few more minutes left on a follow-up Friday. 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Pursue your passion for shepherding, teaching, and ministry leadership with a Master of Divinity from Moody Theological Seminary. And new for fall of 2025, you can earn the same world-class degree in a shorter amount of time. We've reduced the amount of credit hours to earn a degree. It's flexible, too. Take classes online, on campus at our Chicago or Michigan campuses, or interchange between all those options on a class-by-class basis. Get started today at moody.edu/MDiv.
Gospel music means Tasha Cobbs Leonard,
Jonathan McReynolds,
Jacqueline Carr.
They're all on urbanpraiseradio.org. Get the free Moody Radio app and click Urban Praise.
Mornings with Brian, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Moody Radio Cleveland 103.3 FM.
850 WCRF. Since you was so great at it before, Jamie, why don't you remind folks about our school supply drive?
Oh, shirking responsibility.
Yeah.
And
Laura's Home, fill the van. Laura's Home is part of the city mission. It is a crisis center for women and children. And right now we've got over 50 kids going back to school, and we need your help. We are doing a drive. WCRF is doing a drive as well as the city mission, but you can drop your items here if you call Daria and make arrangements, or you can drop by at Laura's Home on August 6th between 6 and 10, and you'll meet us.
Yeah.
Hopefully not sweating as badly as we did last year in
That
the
was
humidity.
really bad,
It's like
Jamie.
80 degrees at 5:30.
I looked like I had fallen in a pool by the time you guys got there. I was
Yes.
so gross. But come on
I
August
thought
6th.
you were lovely.
You did not.
I think I actually made a rude comment.
I think you
and I
you
was
did.
feeling guilty about it, remembering it right now. I'm sorry.
My
But you
feet were
can
pouring
text
out of my Crocs.
supplies.
Poor Lauren.
To 440-546-2255 for more information.
We can post that picture of my belly basically against Ron's head. Like, shine a light on his news.
That's right. That's right, yeah. And what was that when your feet were kind of poking out of the croc holes?
Yes.
I actually think you're not supposed to talk about that.
She brought it
I
up.
did.
She brought
Boundaries.
it up. I'm not
My
sorry.
feet were spilling out of the croc holes. They're the only shoe that fit.
And you flew from Chicago just for
was a
our supply
surprise.
drive.
It was a surprise. I forgot about that.
One of the things we still have time to talk about, and I want to because we have T-minus 4 minutes and 40 seconds before we get to Jason Champion. There was a sweet comment from a dad. So we talked about the fact that parents and teens have dramatically different opinions about whether their teens are being emotionally supported. 27.5% of teens said that they're always getting the social and emotional support they need. Meanwhile, parents, 76.9 were like, oh, yeah, my child is always getting the social and emotional support they need. It's a tough one as a parent of teens to hear.
It is. But I would not put myself in this 76.9%. Like, I know that I'm messing up daily.
I see what you mean.
But, it's hard to hear because you don't want to hear that my kid is saying, well, 1/4 of the time I'm getting what I need. That's sad and that's scary.
Yeah, and it's a difficult thing to grapple with when you're outnumbered like you and Sean are and Sarah and I are, where part of the deal is you don't have enough.
Yeah.
For all of them. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as I have.
No,
That's okay.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, we're at a point right now where, my teenager is amazing, and he doesn't always tell me everything, but when he does, it's like he throws up everything and so we're able to work through some of that.
I mean, I had the other day, within a 2-day period, I drove probably 400 or 500 miles just getting people places and going
Amen.
to work and such. And I made dinner, I did grocery shopping. I could make you this long list, not to make you feel bad for me, but to say that evening, it was over. I had nothing. And I knew that me deciding that I can't do any more today, I can't even hardly look at anyone. I know that some of my kids will have needs that are not going to go met.
Right.
And I feel a little bad about that.
Oh, yeah.
But this dad wrote to us. He said, wow, thanks for talking about this. I'm a new dad of teens, and I never thought about the perspective thing Daria mentioned. One of the reasons things seem so dramatic could be because to them it is very dramatic.
It is.
Just because they don't have the life experience and perspective that we do. That's a great point. That was very eye-opening. Way to go, Daria.
Yeah, Daria.
Hey. It's a hard thing to remember. And it's hard not to even you reminisce about your broken heart in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny now. You forget how sad it was in 7th grade. And it's hard to flip that switch from your current perspective to empathizing with your 7th grader that their little heart was broken by some weird little kid that you didn't even like anyway. Yeah?
It's just funny that you're saying that because the other day I was in the car with my teenager and an old song was on and I was like, this is the song that I listened to in 7th grade when Eric broke up with me. And my son was like, turn this station. Why are you thinking about anyone other than dad? And I was like, well, because I was a 7th grader once too, kid. It was just really funny.
What song was it? End of the Road by Boyz II the Men?
No, Boyz II Men was
Boyz
Adam
II the
Whistler.
Men.
Sorry, I said that wrong. Whoops.
No, it was Name by...
don't look at me.
I can't tell him your name. I don't know that I can't think of this.
It was a sad song. I don't know that one. It was a sad song.
I'll look it up after. Yeah, I don't even know if it was a sad song, but it was.
Songs trigger memories like that.
And it was just so funny that he was like, how dare you think about anyone other than dad? And I was like,
so
well, I'm not
funny.
like still sad about it. I'm just telling you
Not
that's
still
why,
pining for Eric.
It's a memory.
It was just so funny.
I mean, I still remember it, the middle school dancing to slow dance, obviously.
Obviously.
To Firehouse's Love of a Lifetime. Remember that one?
In middle school.
No.
And thinking to myself, as the lyric says, I really have finally found the love of a lifetime. You know, I mean, it's like, and you're 7th grade. Who was I dancing with? I don't even remember.
Don't even know her name.
I don't even remember. But I think that's the important
She's
perspective
probably
to
thinking the
switch in
same
your
right
head.
now.
Right, yeah. Right.
I don't know that kid's name, but man, he was weird.
He wanted to dance to Love of a Lifetime, and he kept looking at me funny. Yeah.
The one that got away. Brian Dolan.
Yeah, right. I don't think there's any broken hearts.
There might be, but too bad, so sad.
I was broken up with a lot, Jaime Buxton.
I broke up with a lot.
Not surprised to hear either my assertion or yours.
Are you ready? It's almost time. Oh, he's coming back, y'all, like a thief in the night. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, now it may be morning, night or noon. I don't know, but it's gonna be soon. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And oh, when we all get to heaven, that's the day when we'll be shouting. Oh, that's the day when that we're gonna be so glad. Oh, we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Listen, do you know him as your King, Lord and Savior of everything? Are you ready? 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 When we all get up to heaven, that's the day when we'll all be shouting, 'cause we'll be so glad, oh, so glad we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't wait for that day. No more trouble, it's all gone away. I can't wait to see my Savior's face. Are you ready? Are you ready? Would your soul be lost if he came back today? Oh, got my bags all ready, 'cause I don't wanna be late. that day. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. And oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, when it cracks the sky. Oh, will we meet in the great dark night? I like that.
That was Cleveland's own Jason Champion. It is just about 9 o'clock here on WCRF. That does it for another week. But we're back next week.
Yeah.
There's always another week.
That's how weeks work.
Unless Jesus comes back over the weekend.
Amen.
And then it's a whole
Please do,
different
actually.
story.
Come, Lord, quickly.
It'd be great. But if he tarries, as they said in the King James, we'll be back.
Wish he wouldn't.
But if he does,